Chapter 41, The Overseer. Third-person POV. Cain and Mephistopheles were sitting in a large hall, both in front of each other. There was an ominous silence in the hall which was broken by Cain. "This tea is quite nice." Seeing that, Mephisto smiled and said, "Indeed, it has come from some of the best plantations in China." Cain made a mental note to tell Graphia to have someone bring these from China, secretly, lest those Xiangxia guys create a ruckus about it. So now that the pleasantries are done, shall we come down to the reason why has the newly crowned Lucifer come to this old man? I will be straightforward. I need you to become the overseer of Arsgoisha. Both looked at each other for some time and then Mephisto said, "Are you serious?" "No, I am Cain." Silence, pin drop silence. Ignoring the atmosphere, Mephisto again said, "What is in it for me?" "Well, he didn't outright deny me, so let's do this. I don't need you to be present at every meeting, just the ones in which important things are being discussed and in case of some huge problems. I don't mind doing this, but what will I get from it? I am getting to that point. First of all high-class and higher devils will give priority to Graubazer magicians in forming a contract. Also, you will be given authority equal to ultimate class devils, only lower than Satan's. Along with that, I offer a salary for you per meeting." Hearing all of that, Mephisto went into the thinking mode and was calculating the benefits of the contract. After some deliberation, Mephisto found that accepting will be beneficial to him and the organization. And he is different from the previous Satans. "He didn't order me but made a deal. Looks like the foundation you made will be reaching new heights, Faust." Hearing that, Cain stood up and looked at Mephisto and said, "Great, then tomorrow is the first meeting. Please be prepared and come." Saying that, Cain teleported away, leaving Mephisto bewildered. How did he teleport from the barrier around Graubazer, and that to when he knew it would take him to the dimensional gap? Unknowingly, Cain had given another reason to Mephisto to become the overseer in the hope that he will be figure out the way Cain teleported just now. The next day, the first meeting of Arsgoisha was started. All of the lords of the remaining 72 devil pillars were present, along with the 4 Satans, and even the extra houses had someone to represent them. But even though the Devil Society had just ended the civil war, from the way the Devil Lords are sitting, at least 2 different factions can be seen. The Great King faction led by Zekram Baal, those who want to prevent the new Satans becoming like the previous ones while maintaining the traditions. The Conservative faction led by the clan of Belial, those who believe that power should be more evenly distributed and that common devils be given more rights. And lastly, the smallest but the strongest faction, the new Satan faction led by Cain Levon Lucifer. They believed in formation of a new Devil Society hell which will be better and stronger. Out of the 37 remaining devil pillars, 7 were on the new Satan faction, 18 in the Great King faction and 12 in the Conservative faction. Cain was more annoyed than anyone, as the foolish bastards can't even see their own predicament. But Cain has a way to put them down very easily. This meeting will be all about reconstructing the underworld, but using that as a topic, Cain will make everyone from the opposing faction take losses. But first, the overseer needs to be introduced. Cain went up the podium and spoke using magic to amplify his voice so that everyone will hear him clearly. The Arsgoisha was decided to be run by an impartial devil, and the one that has been chosen for this task is a devil who is impartial, even if the notation of it sounds ridiculous. Just as Cain said that, a magic circle appeared in the hall and Mephistopheles appeared from it. Seeing him, every first-gen devil was shocked, as they knew that he didn't even listen to the Satans. But somehow Cain had managed to get him to listen and even had him take up the position of the overseer of the Arsgoisha. Cain looked at everyone present and saw that nobody disagreed with Mephisto being the overseer, and thus the first Arsgoisha started. The meeting was ongoing for several hours, but nothing was getting decided. The minor things like the food problems or helping the injured devil's family were taken care quite easily. But whenever anything major will come up due to the factions, it will become a stalemate. In the end, Cain got fed up and said, "First things first, you guys can play all the politics you want after the reconstruction is done. If after this any one of you fuckers does that shit, there will one less devil pillars from the next day." Hearing that, everyone gulped and shut up, but Zekram said, "Isn't what you are doing now just the same as the previous Satans?" Hearing that, Cain looked at the Baal ancestor and said, "No, it is very different. The previous Satans were only saying things and lacking the strength to do anything, but me, I can definitely do what I say. So shut up, Zekram." Hearing that Cain was being serious here, even Zekram sat down quietly. Seeing that everyone was quiet, Mephisto said, "Do you have any ideas about what do to Lord Lucifer?" Cain was waiting for Mephisto to say that, as he had deliberately let the situation get to this, as no matter what Cain proposes the others will have to accept, as they lost their chance due to playing politics. "First of all, we will be connecting all the cities in the underworld by roads. Construct the roads in a way that carriages can go easily from one city to another and even inside the city. The detailed plans of each city will be given to the respective lords after concluding the meeting." In the middle of this, Lord Belial spoke up and asked Lord Lucifer any reason why we must focus on roads so much. Cain responded fluently, as if he had expected the question. "Development will follow if the transport is good. No matter how much we reconstruct, only when the common devils themselves decide to progress, the underworld will develop completely. The noble devils can't do everything. Tell me, how many of you are going to do things like making armor and weapons, creating things of daily use? None, so we must also think about the common devils if we truly want to develop." Hearing his logic, everyone was agreeing with him, but again, this time Lord Agars asked, "But what about the cost? It will be astronomical if we consider the size and magnitude of what you have said." And Cain responded, Of course the devil pillars will pay for their respective cities in their territory. Aside from that, places where no lord rules. Lucifer clan will pay along with Lucifer and the extra devil clans. Hearing that, many devils were shocked and wanted to refuse, but the glares of the new Satans shut everyone up. After that the meeting went smoothly with no one being a problem creator. This was the sole reason Cain even allowed faction to be made. Like this, he can always do anything he wants by simply making it look like the others started it, but for others they need to gain support from another faction. Thus a system of checks and balance was created. After 3 more hours the Ars Goetia ended and the reformation of the Devil Society was underway. Cain had introduced more reforms like creation of schools for common devils to teach them basic knowledge. Cain wanted to train them for fighting, but that would be tough, so he left it for the future. He also warned everyone to not fuck with any person of another pantheon, as devils are already considered bad. Seraphal had to work twice as hard due to the fact that many devils caused trouble due to their stupid pride. Adjuka also said that he was working on a way to improve the devil population. Falbium didn't say much, but he told that he will make sure that the military is in peak condition. Seeing that someone as lazy as him is working at something, many devils pillars were motivated, but only for a short period. Cain was lying in bed with Ziera after having a short session of steamy sex with her. Why did you propose that the Lucifer clan will take care of the expenses of the transport? Taking clan-wise, the most money will be used by you. Cain looked at her for a while and said, "It was calculated. While it is true that I would lose a lot of money, but in the long run I will be one who benefits the most." Ziera looked confused. How? As good as she is at politics, she is really bad at making money, huh? Cain looked at her and said, "If you want to know, then be prepared, it will get real serious." After that Cain started to speak like a robot. Currently no devil pillar is greatly involved in the human world, but I have been investing in it since I was in my teen years. Currently we won't gain much, but later in the future I will get exponential gains. And by the time other devils get involved, my head start will be too big. Also I know for a fact that most of the devil pillars will make a road which will last only a few decades. But I will make roads which will last for centuries. As time passes and common devils grow more economically, they will understand that their lords are not good, but I on the other hand will look good. The devil pillars, in order to appease them, will make new roads spending more money, but they already lost the trust of the common devils. This way I will gain support of the common devils as time passes. And due to their roads being broken, I will have a reason to mock them later on, further increasing my reputation. This way I will gain many things in the long run. Connections, the human world, and lots of money, support of the common devils in the underworld, and more political power, and a card to play when putting pressure on the devil pillars. Hearing all of that, Ziera looked at Cain and said, "But will something so trivial really be enough to put political pressure on the devil lords? Even if it is small, it can be used greatly in politics, and I am sure you know how to do that." Hearing that, Ziera was truly seeing that Cain had planned this. Seeing Cain showing off his strength like that made Ziera hot. She went and sat on Cain, straddling him while naked and moonlight illuminating her. Seeing her like that, Cain once again started a sex match with Ziera which lasted the whole night. Cain had just woken up from his slumber only to find Ziera clinging to him like a koala, even mumbling something like harder or too deep in her sleep. Cain ignored that and woke up and put a pillow in his place to wake up Ziera. After that he had baths and went to his study and found a list of devils capable of managing his finances on his desk. Looks like Grafia made this faster than I expected. He was reading THA list when Grafia entered the room with breakfast. It was an Indian-style breakfast. It was a Mughlai-style breakfast with sweets. Cain had asked for a different kind of dish for breakfast every time unless he says so. So the maids were busy learning recipes. The maid trio exceptionally was very interested in mastering various cuisines. After breakfast Cain called Grafia and said, "Anonymously give the people in this list a certain amount of money and tell to compete with each other. The one who lasts the longest or the one who makes the most money will be chosen. The time limit is a decade." Grafia replied, "As you wish, my lord," and went to do as he said. The amount of money the Lucifer clan was handling was too much. Cain needed too much time to check all of it. So he needed someone who can do it for him. Thus the need for the competition. But still he needs to do this for a decade. Oh, the woes of being rich. Chapter 42, The Phoenix. Third-person POV. Quite a few years have gone by since the end of the Civil War, and the Devil Society is slowly getting back on track, with Cain making sure that there is no faction play to slow down development. Even then, making roads all around the underworld was a huge thing. Even with magic, only a quarter of it has been completed. The common devils are still skeptical, but they are gradually believing that the ruling devils are doing something for their sake. Another that has been happening is the boom in the treasury of the Phoenix clan. At first when Cain heard about it he ignored as them having a profitable time, but as the money kept coming in he was forced to check. He needed to know if their earning was legal or not in devil terms, lest they were smuggling some things like immortal peaches or golden apples. But the answer was the Phoenix twins. Lord Phoenix had 2 daughters, Rayla and Layla. Both of them didn't attend the last Young Devil gathering as they were only 8 at the time, but apparently they were very good at business. In fact, after having Grafia check, it was shown that only Layla was responsible for the Phoenix clan's boom in wealth. The reason being Rayla was one of the devils who accepted the competition orchestrated by Cain. Thus she was busy making money for a different thing. After asking Grafia about why only one of them was in the competition, he came to know that Layla had refused to participate, not believing sketchy things. The only thing Cain had in his mind was a pity that she lost such a good opportunity. The same day when Cain was sitting in his garden while eating a pie was suddenly interrupted by Melissa. What happened? Lady Leviathan is calling for you, my lord. In her office. Cain frowned, hearing that ordinarily Seraphal will come herself and not ask him to come. Something serious must have come. Currently Graphia was with Ziera, who was busy dealing with the Great King faction and trying to get the support of the common devils. Cain told Melissa to tell them about his whereabouts if they asked and went to meet Seraphal. Cain was surprised when he saw the people inside Seraphal's office. The three Satans were inside, making Cain think that the matter to be discussed was more important than he thought. Just as Cain entered, Ajuka asked, "Now that Cain is here, can you tell the reason for making all of us come here?" Ajuka was cranky as he was forced to come here from his natural habitat, aka his research room. Falbium was still sleeping on the chair while sitting. Seeing that Cain coughed a little, making them both take this a bit more seriously. After that, Seraphal said Hades is acting up recently. Hearing that, Cain said if he is just acting up there is no need for an emergency meeting like this. But that next line Seraphal said made even Falbium wide awake. Pluto attacked a devil group at the border. What? Falbium screamed, understandably as he was the one responsible for military, yet he didn't know about this as it looked from his reaction. Seraphal explained the entire group was killed, and then Hades sent a message stating that this could be taken as a hostile approach. He said that the devils attacked Pluto first. Even if devils are arrogant, I doubt they will attack a legendary Grim Reaper, Ajuka said with a serious tone. But Cain was thinking it a different way. If the devils who attacked Pluto were from the GKF, then it will make a lot of sense. After all, if Hades actually attacked, the new Satans will be responsible, not their faction. Cain was infuriated. This fuckers don't even care if the entire devil race is nearing extinction. Only thinking for their own gain. Cain looked and said to Seraphal, "Go to Hades and offer him a truce for 100 years. If he does it to 50, then also accept it." Hearing that, Seraphal and the other two looked at Cain with astonishment. "Who are you and what have you done with Cain?" Cain ignored Seraphal and said, "Offer him 10,000 tons of gold. And before you guys say something, the devil race isn't capable of war at this moment. The problem is that in terms of top-tier powerhouses we have the advantage, and I know I can beat the soul out of that skeleton bag, but currently we can't afford another war." Hearing that, the other three agreed too. But now they had started the meeting, Cain started to talk to them about other important things too. Falbium, make sure that you are even more rigorous in selecting and training the military. And Seraphal, try to maintain a good relationship with the Shinto and Norse pantheons. Why? Shouldn't we try to improve our status with Olympus first? No, it will be pointless. Hades doesn't like any races except gods, that too, only the Olympus ones. And in the future we might end up completely destroying our relationship with the Greeks. On the other hand, both the Shinto and Norse are much better. They are sensible, and my future plans do not meddle with them too much. Hearing that, Ajuka said, "What are your future plans and when will they start?" "Well, that depends upon how fast you complete your project, to be fair." "So you need that, huh?" Seraphal was confused by the talking between Ajuka and Cain. Falbium didn't even try to understand. But after Ajuka told her that it was a surprise, she stopped her questioning. After some more idle talk, the four of them went back to their respective homes. Cain entered his room only to find Ziera laying on her back reading a report. She was only wearing a black negligee which did little to hide her curves. It barely reached her thighs and did nothing to hide the lacy purple panties she was wearing. Seeing that, Cain decided to first address his hot wife and later think about a literal death god threatening a war. He had his priorities straight even if they were in the wrong order. Cain went on top of Ziera, covering her smaller body with his own, effectively pinning her between himself and the king-sized bed. Ziera at first panicked but then calmed down, figuring out that it was him. "Were you really thinking that someone else will be here?" "No, I have been too much under stress." Ziakram is trying everything to increase his political power. While Ziera was saying that, Cain's erection was lodged between her ass cheeks, and Cain was grinding against it hard. "Well, let's relieve your stress, shall we?" Saying so, Cain removed his clothes using magic and moved her panties to the side just as he was about to enter her cave. She said, "Wait, at least let me turn around." But Cain said a very idiotic thing, but with the voice of a sage. "No, the angle of the dangle as of now is perfect to reach the deepest parts of the booty of the coochie." And with that, penetrated her in one go without any problem, as she was already wet enough. At least be gentle. But after years of having sex with Cain, Ziera was much more resistant to pleasure. But along with that, her sensitivity also increased, thus making her almost same as her wedding night. Even now, Cain didn't stop, knowing that his needy wife was just saying it with no real protest. He knew how to tell the difference after living with her for the past 7 years. He continued penetrating her wet hole. Cain put his hand on her neck from the front and raised her till she faced him. It looked painful, but with Ziera having a ridiculously flexible body, she didn't feel any pain. Cain kissed her like that, increasing her pleasure, bringing her closer to her climax. Cain let her go and stated, thrusting like a madman, making Ziera moan like a possessed woman. "Oh, this feels unreal." Just like that, Ziera reached her orgasm, drenching the sheets. But Cain didn't stop, as the pressure inside her vaginal walls was currently at its peak, and he was not going to miss the chance. Cain continued sliding his shaft inside her, giving her no rest and prolonging her orgasms as her body was wrecked with countless mini orgasms. I am still sensitive." Ziera was having trouble in pronouncing coherent words due to the pleasure. And after a few dozen minutes, Cain also felt reaching his peak. He started slamming his hips even more faster. Ziera's supple butt would wiggle with every thrust. Ziera was a mewling mess beneath Cain, by now barely able to talk correctly, only giving out unknown noises. So Hood feels like Hauven. And like that, Cain erupted deep within his wife, making sure that his tiny baby seeds entered her womb. Just as he took his cock out of her, the gate opened and Graphia entered the room with some papers in her hand. But like time stopped, Graphia looked at Ziera and she looked at her lord. And an atomic blush spread on the face of the ever-stoic maid. But the mood was broken by Ziera speaking in between, still in her own realm. More. Both Cain and Ziera were sitting at the bed dressed up, while Graphia was standing in front of them ready to give the report by which she came here in the first place. Ziera was blushing, embarrassed that she had shown such intimate scenes to the maid of her husband. Cain didn't really care, as he knew Graphia wouldn't comment on it. But Cain's mind wandered to a scene where Graphia and Ziera were lying on top of each other with no clothes, their nipples touching and caves dripping, inviting him. My lord. Graphia's words brought back Cain to reality and he focused in what she was saying. Ah, yes, continue. So as I was saying, my lord, Rayla Fenix is the one who has eliminated the most of the players in the competition, although in terms of money she hadn't made too much. The current players aside from her have more money. But if she continues her plan to eliminate others, it is virtually guaranteed that she will win. Ziera looked confused for a moment, but them understood that I was talking about the financial competition. After that she said, then isn't she useless? She isn't making money but killing her competitors. Cain, hearing that, said, no, Ziera, what she is doing is the fastest way to gain money in this competition. It is not the best way but the fast way. All the money of her competitors is hers. After, why should she work when the others will do it for her? Hearing that, even Graphia gave her thought on the matter. But isn't it better to end the competition then? From the way it is going, she is going to create a big problem if her action come to light. Death of multiple devil is not good, especially after the civil war. Cain said, not my problem if she fails to prepare for the consequences of her plans, that is not my worry. But still, there are 3 more years till it is decided who the winner is. We can only speculate till then. Hearing that, both Graphia and Ziera agreed with him. After that, Graphia went back to her duties and Cain looked towards Ziera and said, wanna continue? Ziera blushed but then looked at him seriously and said, Cain, I need you to address your little harem, as it may break down if you do not give enough attention to your maids. Hearing that, Cain said of course, and went after Graphia to work on Ziera's advice. Although what she didn't knew that after she passed out, Cain went to his maids for continuing till his lust was sated. So in no way Cain's harem was about to break. Chapter 43, New Discoveries. Third-person POV. Another 2 years have passed and today Cain was visiting Ajuka, as he was called by him to show some new products he made. Cain teleported into Agar's after eating his breakfast. And what greeted him instead of a medieval age city was a fully sci-fi city. Even though he doesn't get surprised easily, this thing was truly astonishing. Cain was also making Lilith modern, so he knew how hard it is. But Ajuka did it faster, as Agar's is a lot smaller than Lilith. Not to mention Cain's money is also going out too fast. Cain went inside the laboratory of Ajuka only for to see him handling a chess piece with utmost care. What's with that chess piece, Ajuka? Hearing that, Ajuka's hand trembled a bit but he calmed down and kept it back. He turned towards Cain and said, do not scare me like that. If that thing broke, I will murder you. Yeah, sure. Cain replied half-heartedly. Seeing that, Ajuka huffed and started explaining about the chess piece. This is the prototype which will help in increasing the devil population. I have already tried 2 before but they failed. Let's hope that you can provide some useful insight. With that, both went inside a room which contained a prisoner from the Civil War expected for execution. Talk about brutality. Ajuka is using Dvix like them for his experiments. Some of them look like minor Thula guys now. Ajuka went near the prisoner and put the pawn piece on the poor guy's chest and inserted the piece. For some time nothing happened, but after that the devil started convulsing and acting like something was coming out of him, and like that he started changing into something inhumane, not that he was a human in the first place. After a lot of screaming and screeching, the devil became a mix of human, lion and alligator. Ajuka, are you trying to make a chimera? Cain said, looking at that monstrosity. Ajuka looked at him and said no, while simultaneously staring the chimera. After that he asked Cain any ideas. Cain started speaking his mind. First of all, we are dealing with the soul, so that needs to be under keeps. No gods like anyone except death or creation gods to be playing with souls. Souls? Aren't we dealing with the body? Ajuka asked, a bit confused. No, the body changes and shapes itself after the soul. So to change the body we need to work with the soul. Hearing that, a look of enlightenment appeared on Ajuka's face. Seeing that, Cain gave some more of his points to Ajuka. And bind him to a devil first to give stability. That may be the reason why he is morphing like that. No, we need to at least make it stable for some time before it changes. What if in the future a devil runs away? We need it to stay normal for a while. Seeing that, Cain agreed to Ajuka and gave one last advice to him before leaving him to his experiments. Also add a chant while inserting the piece and use of will in it. This may help a little bit. Saying that, Cain went, leaving Ajuka a little confused. Chants? Wills? Is he going senile? But then he remembered the last attack used by Cain to end Rizevim and again went silent, trying to decipher why chants and wills are important. Now Cain was planning to go Sirafal, as she had been recently negotiating with the Norse, and surprisingly they agreed on having good relationships. Looks like Odin is not like Zeus, although he is still a pervert. But instead of teleporting directly, Cain decided to fly there instead. On his way Cain saw that the construction was going at a steady pace. It will take another 3 to 5 years to complete. This just shows how big the underworld is, even though the work is being done only on the areas devils occupy. And to top it off, magic is also being used in the construction process. In the middle of his leisure flight, Cain found that many construction places are attacked by the beasts. Even though he had ordered Lucifer clan's army to protect them, they were only present at few places that were near the cities. I will ask Graphia to check it. Thinking about Graphia, Cain had a flashback as to what happened the day before he came out check on the others. Flashback no jutsu. Cain was sitting in his study with Graphia sitting on his thighs as he worked on some documents with one hand and fondled Graphia's boobs as a stress ball with one hand. Lord Cain, my breasts aren't stress balls, she said with professionalism in her tone, but Cain was also swift and replied, they are for me. Why don't you use your wife's then? This time Graphia said as a woman of Cain, not a maid, but again the reply came lighting fast. Those are better for pillows. Division of labor is important these days. Hearing that, Graphia sighed and stood up and was about to go, but Cain pulled down, making her face near his lap. At least help me with my stress. Graphia sighed for what seemed like a dozenth time and opened Cain's pants and started stroking his flaccid length with her soft hands. After Cain was on full mast, she took his meat staff into her mouth and started to suck on tip while gradually going lower on his dick. Cain also stopped his paperwork for a moment and put his hand on Graphia's silver locks and petted them. Her maid fetish is really strong, huh? And just as Cain was about to increase the intensity of the blowjob he was receiving, the gate opened and Ziera walked in with some more papers in her hands. Graphia stopped for a second, but a little pet from Cain encouraged her to keep doing what she was doing. I hope you aren't fooling around like the last time I caught you with Melissa. Cain remembered that his wife can be quite strict when work is involved and said with complete confidence. Of course, Ziera, do you really think I would do it again? No guarantee. You really have lust as one of your primary sins. Looks like she still remembers how I always run away from work to bang one of my maids, as she is always busy at this time around and she has to do my work. Just at that moment, as to increase his agony, Graphia started to deep throat him, but him being a veteran warrior who has been inside that throat multiple times was able to maintain a calm expression. Ziera put the papers on the desk and said, feel the wrath of the paperworks, you will also understand how I feel when I am stressed and can't come to you for pampering. And turned around and went out swaying her shapely hips. Seeing that she was out, Cain put a hand behind Graphia's head and pushed her till she took in his entire cock and started ejaculating, depositing his sperm directly into her stomach. After that, Graphia stood up and was about to go back when Cain said, just wait for me to finish my work. Graphia showed a rare smile at that and spoke in a tiny voice, I will be waiting, Cain. Cain went back to work and on the first paper he held he saw that something was written. Try to hide Graphia's demonic signature next time. Oops, looks like she caught me. Not that I was trying to hide it. But I can surely expect some spicy play tonight, I guess. After that, Cain completed his work fast and banged Graphia and then banged Ziera. Flashback end. Just like that, Cain reached near the Leviathan territory while thinking about yesterday and entered inside Seraphil's office from the window. Seraphil was working furiously and battling an endless horde of paperwork, the greatest enemies of every Satan. The amount was mind-boggling and Cain thanked Ziera and Graphia that they take care of his work or else he will go ballistic due to this and blow up the Ars Goetia. He went and sat in front of Seraphil and kept silent. After some time, when the stacks of paper went down and Seraphil saw Cain's face, she said, Cain, when did you come? No con this time? I am been sitting around for quite a few minutes. Seeing that, Seraphil made a sheepish smile and ignored his remark and said, anyways, why are you here? Cain mentioned his reason for the talks with the Shinto pantheon and Norse pantheon. Hearing that, Seraphil went full professional mode and started speaking without taking any breaks. So Odin did say that he is willing to make amends with the devils, but after some time, as currently Nidhogg, Surtur are acting up and Odin is busy dealing with them using his authority as the God King. What about Thor? He should be able to deal with both of them alone. Loki sealed him somewhere and it will take some time till he is free. And Loki is also inciting the Dark Leaves to rebel against the Aesir. The situation is very complex. If we want to help them and make good relation, we will have to act now. But the answer that Cain gave made Seraphil surprised. No, we won't do anything. Let's wait and see what happens. As for befriending the Aesir, that is quite easy. Challenge Valhalla, win it, then fight Thor, show of your body and strength to get Freya on your side, and finally provide some magazines to Odin and we get the Norse on our side. Hearing that, Seraphil was flag-basted. Her mouth was open like a fish out of water. Should I fill that mouth? No, control. After a few minutes, Seraphil calmed down and said, what about the Shinto? Well, do what you can. Izanagi is very annoying to deal with. Try to talk with the younger gods like Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi. As the old ones, they can be very tough to deal with as they value their traditions very much. Understood. The Leviathan said like she understood it all, where in reality she didn't. After some more talk, Cain decided to visit Falbium. There wasn't anything to talk with him, he just wanted to check that he was doing his job properly and not sleeping all the time. And to his surprise, Falbium was sleeping and supervising the training of the new military recruits. How he was doing that, even Cain was stumped on that. But leaving that as sloth being Falbium's primary sin, Cain went to talk to him. You sure are enjoying this, aren't you? Falbium only looked at him with droopy eyes and said, yes, better that being the heir of the Glaciolobula's house. So what's the status? Anything new? Falbium looked at one of his assistants, who after getting the signal started speaking like robot whose only function is to recite the things that happened in the past. Lord Cain, in the past years the strength of military has increased considerably. More than 3 million common devils have been added to the reserve force which is kept for wars. Seems like the common devils see military as the easiest jobs. Well, that is very wrong. The assistant continued. Also more and more state-of-the-art weapons and armors are added to TE armory. Even divine materials like celestial bronze, black iron are used in weapons wielded by high-ranking officers. The poor guy was getting tired as time went and at last Cain signaled him to stop. All in all, Falbium was doing his job without any problems even if he was just sleeping most of the time. Just as Cain was about to go, Falbium, who was asleep, asked a question surprising the assistant. Why didn't you take any action even after knowing that the GKF was responsible for souring our relation with Hades? Hearing that Cain spoke, never thought that you would ask, but you want a reason. It would be because Zekram didn't do it. Hearing that, Falbium for the first time opened his completely and looked at Cain. But didn't we confirm that the GKF was responsible for it? Cain sighed before explaining. Indeed, the GKF was the one behind it, but it was done without Zekram's knowledge. He may be power hungry, but he didn't do things which will harm the future of the devil race as a whole, but the people in his faction only think for their own. So even if reluctantly, Zekram is NECCSA. Hearing that, Falbium went back to his lazy persona and started thinking about what Cain said. Seeing that the lax guy is doing some thinking, Cain decided that this much was enough and went to check on the last matter of internal affairs handled by his own wife. Cain was laying on his bed with Ziera on his chest after a sword session. Now that his little demon was relieved of her stress, he began asking about the things in Ars Goetia and the internal state of the Devil Society. Mephisto doesn't really attend many if the meetings. The GKF was making a fuss of it. Other than that, the Belial clan and its backers were saying that we should be more liberal and get more involved with the humans. Well, Mephisto will only attend the meeting in which the presence of the overseer is necessary, so give him a head up before such a thing. As for the GKF, let them be, they wouldn't dare do anything as I had given them a visit last time. And for increasing the involvement with humans we should wait a few decades more. Hearing that, Ziera said, indeed, that's what I said. Really? Yes. Ziera was drawing circles on Cain's chest with her nails, while they continued talking like this and eventually went to sleep. The construction of the roads has reached halfway till completion and the benefits are already showing. But Cain wasn't very interested in that just yet. He was more focused on the completion, which is very near to its end. And according to Graphia, only 2 competitors remain, Rayla Fenix and Dimitri Barbados. Well, Cain already knew that Rayla would win. Now he was planning on how to make sure that she doesn't get any funny ideas. Cain isn't one to believe in words, promises or contracts, as they can always be broken. What he needs is a foolproof trust that he can trust Rayla with his entire wealth and not worry about her betraying him. It is quite simple though, political marriage. But I can already see Zekram being noisy about that. Satans can't have a harem or whatever. He will shut up once I flex my aura a little. With that, a year has passed and the decade-long competition that Cain started has ended, and as he predicted, the winner is Rayla Fenix. And to check her out, he has already told Graphia to inform her that the anonymous sponsor will meet her today on the way to the party thrown by Zekram Bale on the birth of his second son Blaze Bale. And forgive me for my poor naming sense. After sitting on the carriage which was on its way to the Bale castle via the Fenix territory, Cain had a mysterious smile. Let's see how good you are in person, Rayla Fenix. Chapter 45, Satan Reforms. Third-person POV. Cain reached near Ziera with a restless Rayla in row and asked her a basic question like he didn't just come to the ball with a woman other than his wife. So how's the ball? And Ziera also replied like she didn't just watch her husband come to the ball with a new woman. It's just so not much is going on. Let's congratulate Zekram and get going. Let me talk to the others first, then we can go. Till then, why don't I let the 2 ladies talk? Cain had already started walking away, leaving Rayla with Ziera after he died his line. Cain ignored everyone else and went directly towards Lord Fenix while taking a glass of devil wine in his hands. Good day, Lord Fenix, how's your family doing? Lord Fenix looked like he was forcing a smile and said, everything is fine, Lord Cain. Cain looked like he was about to give him a good verbal thrashing, so he understands not to do anything to worsen his relationship with Rayla, along with a threat to join the Satan faction now that he is involved with Rayla. But before he could even start, someone else spoke. How are you, Lord Lucifer? It was a woman with striking similarity to Rayla. Cain wouldn't be able to tell them apart if he didn't spend time with Rayla before, but something like this isn't going to deter him, and he replied almost instantly. Fine. And you must be Layla, right? She nodded her head and simultaneously Lord Fenix started to slip away, but I locked him in his tracks by my glare. Not so polite now, are you, Lord Fenix? Like, come on, at least try. He shook his head like he has given up on something and said, if you want to talk about me joining the Satan faction and ditch the GKF, then talk to my wife or Layla. And after saying that, stood at the side, leaving the power to his daughter. This is not surprising considering he married into the house. He looked at Layla and said, so any changes that I should be warned about in the near future? Cain was going easy on her. After all, she is still Rayla's sister and he doesn't yet know what is dynamics of their relationship. No, Lord Cain. You sure have guts denying me like that. Even when I am going to marry your sister. Hearing that, for the first time Layla's calm expression was broken and she said in a voice which wasn't really loud but still showed her realization. No wonder she was acting all over the place like a big shot for the last few years. That was because you were her backer. This makes sense. If that is the case, then if you really end up marrying her, we may change our allegiance. That was surprisingly easy, but by her personality I can't see her getting along with Rayla. Cain started to talk to her about normal things now that the main topic had been discussed. Rayla was standing in front of Ziera, who was sipping wine from her glass. So who started it? Ziera asked calmly with no expression on her face, which scared Rayla even more, but she didn't manage to impress Cain just by her bedroom skills. I did. She spoke with a voice showing no hint of nervousness. As a businesswoman she knew even if she is scared she can't show it to the other side or else they will have an advantage. So you seduced my husband? Quite a bold move even after knowing how I am. It was well known how obsessive Ziera is for her family. Rayla was very close to running away, only the hope that she wouldn't be killed here because of the lords and devils in the hall stopped her. She was sweating profusely, and just as she was about to run away to Cain, as he was probably the only one who could save her from Ziera, Lucifer. But Ziera started giggling and after some time said, "Calm down, it was just a joke. I wouldn't really kill you, and it's not like I didn't know about his little competition. A competition of that level is little. With which kind of beings did I get involved?" Rayla was questioning a lot of things but went back to her formal persona, and soon after Cain came and joined them. "You girls doing fine?" "Yeah, I did a little bit of trolling as you call it. It was fun." Cain looked at Ziera and said, "Let's just hope you didn't give PTSD to our resident chick." With that both Cain and Ziera went to greet Zekram, but it went like Zekram didn't own it a greeting but a report from Cain for his shenanigans. "Congratulations, Zekram. You can't create a harem, Cain. It is not allowed." Ziera shook her head like she was used to it and Cain looked confused. "Well, it will get allowed soon, I guess," Cain said, and went back to find Rayla with her family talking, but it looks like Layla and her were not getting along. "Is that fine?" Ziera asked, seeing the internal warfare between the two Fennec's sister. "Yeah, she should be fine with my backing also. It is not surprising considering their personalities." They both went near the Fennec's family and stood behind Rayla, showing their support. Seeking that, Rayla also gained motivation and continued her talk with her sister. "Now how will you deal with the Arsgoisha? A quick reality check will do the trick. Wouldn't that backfire on you if you continue like this? Many will compare you to the previous Satans. I got the common devils on my side and the road construction is complete, while some of the roads in the various territories made during the start are already breaking. I wonder who ordered people to fight and move roughly on those roads." Ziera just shook her head and thought about the look that would appear on Zekram's face when Cain will start talking tomorrow in Arsgoisha. The ball ended uneventfully, but the next day was major. Zekram, after seeing Cain and Rayla together, had started rallying his faction members from the ball itself, and he stayed awake whole night to prepare for the Arsgoisha, as he knew Cain would be formidable in the meeting. The Arsgoisha assembled, and this time all the four Satans were present along with the unvocalist Satan Ziera, as she was the one who handled most of the things, not Cain. In fact, this is only the third meeting Cain has attended. Mephistopheles the overseer was absent today, as he deemed today's matters not high priority for him to be present. Even if the GKF made a ruckus about it, Ziera responded that the matter related to Cain happened late and hence it was not informed to the overseer. After all, the whole thing was rigged from the start. The meeting started, but unlike other times it was peaceful, and only at the last the topic was raised by a member of Zekram's faction. "I would like to ask the current members, is it fair that again the Satans accumulate power in their hands, as the current Lucifer seems to do so by marriage?" Everyone looked at Cain as to what will he say. "Do I need to accumulate power to do anything? I alone am strong enough, and if some lords here are forgetting about the scene from the end of the war, I can show them, albeit at a smaller level." Zekram stood at this and said, "Are you really going to strong-arm the Arsgoisha? You consider this strong-arming? This is just some tomfoolery. If I was actually going to brute force something, do you really think anyone can stop me?" "Stop daydreaming, Zekram. I don't interfere into your clan matters, so you don't interfere into my personal life." Zekram sat down, but he hadn't given up. He had already known that Cain can't be forced to do anything. Just as he sat down, Lord Belial stood up and said, "But still, if you marry the Lady Fennex, wouldn't you gain more monetary power? It's Lord Lucifer to you first of all, and secondly, it is well known that Rayla isn't the heir, Layla is, and even if she is disowned by the Fennex clan, I would still marry her. As for monetary power, I already have too much of it." But Lord Belial didn't stop and continued, as Zekram and he had made a deal. "But still, more money is never a bad thing, and what is to say you wouldn't take over the Fennex household? Oh, now you guys will tell me about it? I remember that none of the roads made by you guys are still standing properly. I wonder where that money went which was needed to be used for it." Hearing that, Lord Belial went silent and sat down, acknowledging his defeat, because if Cain knew about it, he also knows that he used that money to raise his own army, something which was stopped after the war. If he really pushes it, will give a reason to Cain and the Satans to act openly, which never ends nicely. Now that the conservative faction was out, Zekram needs to handle Cain on his own, which isn't possible, as just like the conservative faction, they also trained their own little army. No one wanted to give the mad devil Cain a reason to act up. There is a reason why, even though Ziera handles most of the internal affairs, whenever there is a scandal instead of her, he come to investigate, which more often than not ends up in heads rolling, either noble or common. But regardless, Zekram tried his luck once more, but still that is a different matter. We can't let power be stagnated in one person's hand. Zekram was betting on his last hope that everyone will agree to at least limit the number of wives if he can't stop Cain from taking multiple. But he fell right into Cain's trap. In the end, it was decided that only superdevil class and above devils who have the rank of Satan can take on multiple wives, but by the time that rule was added, everyone was too mentally tired due to the bickering that rose. All hell was let loose when Cain said, "Are Theses rules even going to apply on devil pillars?" Hearing that they can get banned from getting their own harems, the devil lord started getting hyper, and in the end Cain never specified the number of marriages he can do, thus not limiting his choices. The Ars Goetia ended after that and everyone went home. Most devil lords worrying on how to appease Cain so that he ignore their little army. Time went by and Cain was busy courting Rayla, which was proving to be harder than Ziera, as Rayla was in every sense a spoiled princess. Even if she was not as favored as Layla in the Fenix household, she was still the daughter of the richest clan in the underworld, in paper at least. And nobody counts the Satans in such list anyway. How do I propose to her? But thinking this after I have gotten a blowjob and foot job feels wrong somehow. Anyways, a date it is. Cain was eating in his castle while thinking about the date with Rayla when his thought was broken by Ziera speaking. "Why are you thinking so hard? Trying to remember a good dating spot. Is it for Rayla? Then something extravagant with a royal feel will be appropriate. You know her that much? I thought she didn't get along with you. She is going to be my family member, so how can I not know about her preferences? As not getting along that doesn't stop me from knowing he more closely. So you stalked her. You and your family obsession. That was in the Gremory bloodline, although Zeticus apparently didn't inherit it. It will help me get along with her better. Then I guess India it is. The forts there really show the higher ends of royalty. Yes, that last time we went there it was really good, but currently there are a lot of wars going on. How will you get a peaceful date there? Every ruler there knows about the supernatural, though only the kings and queens, as it strengthens their faith, increasing the strength of their gods. And I think nobody wants a pissed off Lucifer. Fair enough. That night Cain ordered Graphia to send a message to the current Indian rulers about his needs for a date and free an entire fort for him. Chapter 47, The Mother of All Devils. Cain POV. I was, for the past few years, hell-bent on clearing that damn dungeon inside my castle. I initially thought that it was at best going to take me 3 to 4 days or at best a week to clear it, but to my surprise this dungeon was an intricate maze filled with various traps. Most of these traps were made by my damn father. Some teleported me to God knows where. Various beasts which are extinct in the underworld appeared to attack me. Special traps which rip you apart, and the most problematic of them the demonic energy control puzzles. For the most part I can brute force my way, but for energy control I needed to work my ass off. Even Ajuka would take a long time to complete these, so I am proud of myself to be able to even complete them. These puzzles were like locks in combination, even the lowest ones in the pairs of 6. And every lock has 3 different ways of unlocking depending upon the controlling way of demonic energy. And the only way to know is hit and trial, so even the smallest puzzles can take up to 729 attempts to clear, not to mention the ones that have dozen of those locks in order. Sometimes I spend an entire day down in here. The reason for me being slow in attempting even though devil brain works fast is due to the inherent devil magic. As devil magic mostly works on imagination, devils don't need much of precision on magic, but that is the problem. When you look at it with a different angle, human magic is way more destructive than devil magic as it involves calculations. So these traps and puzzles, even though annoying, were helping me in getting stronger in the control department. But even so, almost 4 years have passed and now I can say that my control is incomparable to my past self. But now that I have seen how ridiculous control training could be, I still see a long way till I can call myself a perfectionist in demonic energy control. And knowing that Ajuka can control an entire area completely shows how big of a monster he is in control department. But after all this time I can feel that the end of this dungeon is near. It's like an indescribable feeling that pulls me closer to the end of this. I have felt this in the past sometime. A feeling of warmth unlike anything I feel from Ziera, Rayla, or my maids. Even Graphia, with whom I share a bond, doesn't give off this kind of feeling. This is also my main reason I am so focused on clearing this place. And do the same feeling I can know that I am near the end. Whatever thing is down there I can feel in getting closer every trap and puzzle I clear. After a year of continually clearing puzzles which could take up to 500,000 tries, I finally reached the end and only one puzzle remains between me and that feeling's origin. A single huge door. Even with my increased sense I couldn't sense anything beyond it, or even the door itself I can't really sense it. I only know it is there because I am seeing it. Well, let's go, we will see what happens after opening it. Third person POV. As soon as Cain touched the door a bright light shone and everything started to get cleansed by it. And for holy light of this level everything except purity of the highest level is unholy. Cain's instincts kicked before his mind could react and pulled his hands back along with his body. By the time Cain knew what had happened, the light had already went back inside the door and everything within a certain distance from it was destroyed. Was that holy light? Cain was confused, as even if Michael attacked him he still wouldn't be slow enough or weak to be hurt by it. And his instincts worked before his brain, so this light could definitely do the things Michael's light couldn't. This light has an eerie similarity to dark light, just like it except the corrupted part, and coupled with the fact that this is a Lucifer's castle. After being silent for a while, Cain spoke with his voice echoing in the long, dark corridor. So that is the level of the Morning Star in his prime. But the more important question is, how did he make this door after he became a devil? So many mysteries around my parental lineage, only time will tell I guess. As I still lack much information on either Big or my father. Now how do I get inside? First let's try using dark light. Cain tried to imbue dark light into the door but it didn't work, but after trying many different things Cain sat down and though long and hard for a long time. After some minutes he stood up, took out the Book of Lucifer. Just as he took it out, the door revealed a depression just shaped like the book, and seeing that Cain put it inside and just as the book fit inside, the door was finally unveiled from whatever seal was and Cain was able to sense it. And what Cain found out was that this was another puzzle but with 15 locks, as the book had 15 chapters and each with 3 ways, as each chapter in the book was divided into that many parts. Time to try again, I guess. But surprisingly Cain hit that ungodly probability of 0.00000696992% on his 1200th try. And even this low number of tries took much longer, as each wrong try caused that light to be released, causing to halt the process till everything was repaired again. And just as that happened, the door was opened and a putrid smell like that of rotting flesh came out. The first thought of Cain was, whoever died here was left in this place for at least a century or more to be this rotten. And then he went inside. What welcomed Cain inside was piece of flesh which was rotting and decaying. It was almost in the shape of human, but only because of the distinction of the body parts. Aside from that, it was no different from a rotting corpse. But Cain was shocked to see this, because this thing's still alive. Motherfucker. Cain really wanted to correct himself, but his sense told him that thing was alive most definitely, but in a comatose state. But the main question was, how is he gonna cure it, and if it is even possible. At first Cain tried to check it using his demonic energy, but what he found astounded him. This thing's entire demonic energy is out of control. It's like this is a large piece of string and is connected to millions of another threads branching from it, and due to improper care all of them have jumbled up. My father is truly fucked up. Cain knew because of his feeling in his entire body that this thing was his mother, Lilith Livian, the mother of all devils, or the queen of succubuses. And her current state he could only think was due to some shit his mad father did. I know he said he didn't treat her right, but this is on another level than Semelpi being mistreated. Cain understood immediately that this was due to the original Lucifer forcibly birthing devils from Lilith's flesh using the book of Lucifer and some messed up ritual. And as the mother of all devils, she used up a little part of her demonic energy to create a little connection between her and the birthed devil. She must have wanted to cut that later on, but Lucifer didn't allow it in order to have some sort of control over the devils. And she didn't manage the number properly, resulting in all of that being mixed up and making her like this. Each devil has their own unique demonic signature which changes as he grows. And to cure her he needs to cut all those strings down which are form outside but not those which are important for her, while simultaneously solving this huge knot. Just great. I thought I was free of training my control, but this even more tough. Fuck you, Lucifer. But still Cain was different from his father. He was loyal to his family and protective of them. So he began to treat her other, but first he brought her to one of the upper levels of the dungeon. It was much brighter and cleaner than the shithole she was in. He put her in a bed and sat next to her. He tried focusing on her magic and began to unveil her knots. Cain POV. Day 1. I started by checking approximately how many connections are still there, as many devils have died during the long course of history, but I found out that all of them still existed in the connections as the part near to them was cut, but here it was present in the knot. So I began to focus 6 to 8 hours on a daily basis to cure my mom. The only reason I was able to was because of the weird little training montage I had gone beforehand. Day 12. I have managed to unveil a few hundred knots, but the progress is not visible till now. Grafia, Ziera, Rayla, and the others asked me, but I told them that I am working on some huge project. I don't want to give them false hope. So until I cure her, or at the very least I am sure that I can heal her, I will not tell them. This also to make sure that they do not get involved, as if they knew that they do not have the high level of control required and they might start to train for it. Day 456. I must have cleared about thousands of those knots, but they keep on getting harder as more knots get unveiled due to me entangling more to free one. I keep tabs on Ajuka's progress on evil pieces form time to time, but the prototype is only ready with many defects. He needs more time. Day 1234. The speed of me solving the knots has increased. I can solve a few dozens daily now. Not much is going on in the Devil's Society, but I still keep checking for anything major or suspicious either by Hades or by the GKF. Day 5467. The process has gone faster. I can see the eyes, but they are still closed. Some hair has appeared on the head. The limbs are more recognizable now. But still I think I am a fifth of the way there. I am getting better at demonic energy control. I think I should tell Ziera about this. I will leave telling to Grafia and Rayla up to her. Day 7689. After telling Ziera, things got much easier. She had a talk with both Grafia and Rayla. She kept me out of it, but they became more understanding of the situation. As for progress, I think I have completed almost 80% of the work. The basic body shape of the female is present, waist-length hair, eyes with eyelids, I can hear the heartbeat. But the rotting skin and decaying part is still there. I think I can complete this in few more years. Day 9131. Today only a few dozen knots left to untangle. Her entire body is visible. The hair color, skin tone, rising of chest while breathing are visible. The rot and decay has vanished too. The last knots will wake her up. I can only hope that she will have her memory and not be alarmed. I basically rebooted her without the deletion of memory part, of course, but this was my first time, so there may be some complications. So as I solved the last few knots and waited for my mother to open her eyes in what would be for the first time in centuries for her, my heartbeat was rising. When I saw her move and strain her eyes, I got excited. Chapter 48, The Mother of All Devils 2, Lilith POV. How long has it been since I had a normal day in my life? I left the garden, heaven, and Adam because I didn't want to submit to him. After coming to the human world I found peace and freedom, but then came Lucifer. He was strong, beautiful, and kind, but I didn't know he was only interested in my ability to create a new race. I changed my race from a succubus to a devil for him, hoping he would be better than Adam, but he was worse. He only used me for his gains. All those promises he made were meant to deceive me. He made me a breeding machine using my flesh and his book of Lucifer to create devils. At first I thought it wouldn't do anything to me, but I realized it too late that it was affecting me very badly. But I didn't want to die like this before feeling the joy of being a mother, a true mother to a child who I gave birth to. On a day Lucifer was stressed, I used my charms to sleep with him and I got pregnant. I knew if he knew I was pregnant then the fate of my children would be grim. So I made his memories blurry and went to Agar's. I controlled him using my charms and illusions and made him create a small stasis chamber. I then spilt my human form and put that inside the chamber and went back to rule the underworld as its queen with my succubus and devil form. I could only hope that my children are born safely in a future where beings like my husband are not there to wrong them. I also told my maid about this as I only trusted her with this. Soon my body began to rot and decay from the load of birthing devils continuously. In a few months I was unable to even sit, only laying in a bed, waiting for my inevitable fate. And after some time my memory got black and I couldn't feel anything. I tried to stay conscious but eventually my brain turned off. With that I thought I had died. But after an unknown stretch of time I felt the burden of the rituals cast on me by Lucifer get lighter. It was negligible at first but over time it became large. I hoped that it was me getting out of my coma. I can get to see my children. But there is no guarantee that the person curing me is a good person. Are my children even doing good? Are they not hunted or better? Have they even been born? Such questions haunted me. Sometime later I could hear the person healing me. He talked very less but whenever he did, his voice touched me. His voice was ambitious, you could sense the pride and confidence he has in himself from the way he talks. I don't know why but I could feel that he was someone special to me. Very soon I was able to sense with my skin, hear clearly, smell the air around me. And thus I knew I was about to wake up from my slumber, which was for an unknown period of time. I need to be prepared in the case my benefactor is a bad guy. I think I might be rusty but I do not think the scientist or healer types are strong in a fight, especially against a succubus such as myself. I moved my hands a little just to check that I am not restricted by magic and then started to open my eyes, after a long deliberation. Brightness, intense brightness, that was what assaulted my eyes the first. It took me some time to get accustomed to it. But I looked at the ceiling, it was similar to what was in the underworld currently, or the past I guess. I tilted my head to find a grown-up man with silver hair which was closer to white, piercing red eyes reminding me of my husband. A excited yet amused look on his face as well as anticipation. I felt a strong urge to hug him like he was a missing part of me, but I suppressed my urge and asked him. I couldn't speak. Looks like my mouth is not used to speaking after being not used for a long time. I looked at him and lifted a cup of water and helped me drink it. His hands were rough but touched me with care. I think he is not a bad man but I can't be sure. Everyone in the supernatural hides their true intentions. But my instincts say that he will not harm me. After that I again tried to ask him. Who are you? The man replied with a little smile. Cain live on Lucifer. Third person POV. Cain live on Lucifer. Just as Cain ended his name, the woman, his mother, jumped at him. Even when her legs weren't working properly due to the prolonged inactivity, she still jumped forcibly towards him. And Cain opened his arms and took her within his arms. And just as she reached near him, she circled her arms around Cain, pushed her head in his chest and started sobbing. My baby boy, I am so grateful to meet you. I can't thank fate enough for this. She continued to mumble things, half sobs and the other half were muffled in Cain's chest. I am not exactly a baby, but sure, whatever you say. Welcome back, mother. Even when he said that, Cain had a rare smile on his face. After all, he just met his first mother in his 2 lives. He had seen her only when he was born, as his other memories were fuzzy, but he remembered her eyes well. After that, Lilith cried herself to sleep, laying in Cain's arms while her body half on the bed, half on her son's body. Great, I am a pillow again? But I guess that's not a bad thing. Lilith didn't sleep for too long, probably due to her sleeping for an extended amount of time beforehand. When she woke up, she found herself in her son's lap, with head snuggling in his chest. She eventually sat up and looked at Cain, only to find him sleeping while sitting. She released a sigh and sat up. Thank goodness it wasn't a dream. Lilith feared that this was a dream. She looked around and saw that it was a simple room. Just then a voice sounded. Slept well. Lilith turned around to find her son staring at her. She replied. Yeah, I did. Cain? Can I call you that? Yes, you can. Where is Rizevim? Hearing that, Cain went silent for a moment, contemplating whether to tell her so suddenly now or let her adjust and then tell her that. He decided that the later would be better. We will talk about that later. Till then, why don't you ask me some other things? Lilith looked down for a bit and asked me. So how's my boy's life till now? Cain started narrating his life. I have 3 wives, 2 maids who are also my lovers, and another lover who is currently out of reach due to some circumstances. Wow, you are a little playboy. Multiple girls at such a young age. No, I am 90 currently at the moment. What? I thought you were younger, like somewhere around 25 or 30. Then Cain told her about the devil civil war in short, the tyranny of the Satan descendants, and some other stuff in brief, as he would later take her to the library to make her up to date with the complete timeline. They then started talking about his general life, his work, and private life. So how's the underworld these days? You will be surprised, it has changed a lot. And a little fun fact, everyone thought that my middle name was Livian not Livon, due to the difference in Old Devil language and the current one. I had to make an official statement to correct that. But again a bad topic rose. How's Rachel? Cain looked down and said. She died protecting me and Rizevim when we were 2 years old and were attacked by some devil's houses. She held on to your word till her last breath. Hearing that, Lilith got sad, but still she didn't cry. After all, crying in front of her son is bad. Cain simply patted her back. He knew Rachel was the only true friend his mother ever had. But soon the topic got changed and Lilith gradually recovered. They both laughed at some stuff, and when both of them were out of things to talk, Cain said, "Let's take you to meet my wives. And are you gonna stay like this?" Cain said, referring to his mother. "Look, image. No, this is my succubus form. I only show these to people I trust. I use my devil form for public use." Saying so, she turned into her devil form, image. "That's better, but the eye color doesn't match with the ones in my memory." "Oh, you remember how I looked when I gave birth? That was the human form." And then again she changed into it, but only for a brief moment, and returned back to her succubus form, image. "I only remembered the eye color form back then." After seeing his mother change 3 times in a short period of time, Cain put it into the back of his mind and sensed his castle to check for his wives to introduce them to his mother. Only the maids are in the castle currently, the other 2 are busy working. He helped his mother with another glass of water, and then he summoned Graphia with mental command using his bond with her. "Graphia, come here, down in the basement's upper floor. Bring some food with you too. And I've got a surprise for you here too." "Understood, my lord." As stoic as ever I see. "Let's see how you handle meeting my mother so suddenly. I am sure Ziera didn't tell you that the project I've been working on is my mother." Cain and Lilith didn't have to wait for too long before Graphia came with food. Just as she entered the room and saw Cain with another woman, but she was not surprised with it and put the food on the table and looked towards Cain. Graphia could feel a sort of urge to bow down to the woman, just like she felt the urge to bow down in front of Cain, but the feeling was weaker. "Graphia, meet my mother and the former queen of Underworld, Lilith Livon." Graphia was shocked so much that her response made Cain think, "Wish I had a camera right now. This is truly a peak Graphia moment." What? This is my mother-in-law. Era, my boy, you had such a nice wife come maid." Graphia was still in shock about the revelation Cain did. Cain stood up and closed Graphia's mouth, which was open, trying to bring out words but was failing to do so. "This is just the first one. This is going to be a fun day. I can feel it in my balls." After Graphia calmed down enough to go back into her maid persona, they went to meet Melissa and Vanessa, which was interesting just as Cain thought. Vanessa's mask broke and she also acted like Graphia, while Melissa got so excited that she choked on her own spit. Seeing the like this, Lilith hugged both of them and said with the voice of a mother, "Thanks for looking after my boy for so long. I am really grateful to the both of them." Both of the maids smiled and fainted. "Looks like they can't take that the Queen of Devils is thanking them." "How close were you, Graphia?" "Pretty close, my lord." After that, Cain took Lilith to a tour of the castle, and finally in the evening time, Ziera came back from work along with Rayla. Just as they entered the main hall, they saw Cain sitting along with Lilith talking about something. Ziera had some idea about who that could be, but Rayla in her superiority thought that Cain had brought a new girl back with him, so she thought of teaching her about the hierarchy. After marrying to Cain and living with him for a while, Rayla had increased her superiority levels. "You, woman, don't get too high on your horse just because you are a little more beautiful than us." Seeing that, Cain started laughing, while Lilith and Ziera had an amused look on their face. Seeing that, Rayla was confused, and on top of that Ziera came and said, "Greetings, mother, I hope your recovery has been fine." Hearing that, Lilith replied, "Yes, my daughter. Cain talked a lot about you." In the midst of this, Rayla was confused, and then her mind started working. Ziera is calling her mother, she is beautiful, and calling Cain by his name, and she looks like a succubus. Wait, doesn't that mean that she is Lady Lilith? Rayla's thoughts were heard by all of the people present, and Cain said, controlling his laughter, "Yeah, Rayla, meet my mother." Hearing that, Rayla was scared and embarrassed at the same time, embarrassed due to her immature actions and scared that Lilith would hate her. But her worries were unfounded, as Lilith said, "Don't worry, Rayla, and don't apologize. I am not angry. In fact, I am surprised by the amount of variety Cain has in his harem." Hearing that, Rayla calmed down and then sat in the sofa. Soon after, Graphia also came along with Melissa and Vanessa. After that, they had a lot of talk about their lives till dinner. Just as they were sitting for dinner, Lilith asked, "What happened to Rizevim? Does he live in another castle, or is he out of the underworld for some matter?" Hearing that, everyone went silent. Seeing that, Cain decided to tell his mother even if she would be hurt. "Mother, you can read memories, right? Then please do so for mine and Graphia." Ziera supported Cain by saying that she could also show her memory till the Civil War. Lilith asked why, what happened. "Mom, please just do it. Don't ask." Hearing that, Lilith used her powers to see the memories of all the 3 along with Melissa and Vanessa. Rayla wasn't involved in any of these, so she was not of use in this case. After seeing all of their memories, Lilith shed a single tear and kept silent. Cain, seeing that, was hurt, as he didn't want his mother to be sad due to his actions. But he didn't know what to say, as for a mother, her child is her child even if he is evil. "I am sorry." That's all Cain said, and everyone in the room was surprised as this was the first time Cain had apologized sincerely. But Lilith's response shocked everyone even more. Don't be better than your brother and different from your father. Hearing that Cain said with all the sincerity he could muster, I will be. Chapter 49, Devil Society and Evil Pieces. And I know the timeline is a bit messy, but I will explain it here to avoid confusion. 1507 Birth of Falbium. 1508 Birth of Cain, Rizevim, Ziera, Adjuka Graphia, and Euclid. 1509 Birth of Seraphal. 1555 Start of the Devil Civil War. 1558 End of Devil Civil War. Cain starts his finance competition. The Satans are 50 YRS old. 1568 The competition ends. Rayla meets Cain. 1573 Rayla marries Cain. Cain starts exploring his basement dungeon. 1578 Cain finds Lilith. Starts treating her. 1603 Cain finishes treating Lilith. 1605 Evil pieces are made. Cain gets his evil pieces. 1608 Cain and his generation celebrate their 100th birthday. This is the basic timeline. Hope it helps. Ask your questions related to the chronology here. Third person POV. The Devil Civil War brought death and destruction on the underworld but was stopped by the present Satans with their power. Since then every Satan in their own way has helped to reconstruct the Devil Society back to what it was before the Civil War. Seraphal tried her best to maintain peace with the other factions and pantheons. Ziera and Cain helped maintain peace and order inside the underworld while also handling the internal affairs. Adjuka dedicated himself to research and development, ways to create buildings, new inventions to make life easy, and most importantly, something to increase the low populations of the devils. Falbium used his brain to create an army strong enough to participate in divine wars and come out on top. Increased the security on the lands touching the Greek underworld. All of them contributed enormously. The other devil lords used their money to create a viable means of transport all over the underworld. The extra devil clans and the Lucifer clan also helped in this. It was a massive project which took the development of Underworld forward. Time passed and the common devils started making their own houses, businesses, and progressed. Ziera handled most of the Ars Goetia meetings while Cain was busy treating his mother. Rayla made even more money in the human world using advanced methods beyond the humans. The devil lords also raised their private militia during this time. But some lords did it silently while some noisily. They were devastated when Cain paid them a visit. Mephistopheles' organization, Graubazar, soared to new heights due to devils making contacts with them. They got more money and resources to further their magic research. In this time period many kingdoms fell and rose in the human world. Thor freed himself, defeated Nidhogg, Odin sealed Surtur. The Norse was peaceful again. The Shinto was on good terms due to Seraphal making sure no devil harms any yokai or Japanese shrine. Hades was silent due to the gold given to him on Cain's order. Now almost 50 years have passed since the start of the Civil War and the Devil Society is back to what it used to be before the Civil War. The Underworld is ready to start its transition from Underworld to Hell. The Satan's second phase of rebuilding is about to begin, and the start for this is the development of a very groundbreaking technology by Adjuka Bezalebub, the evil pieces. The Nebrius and Neberos households went further with their research, in order to figure out a way to create super devils, and started human and evil experiments. The relationship between Cain and his mother was re-strengthened in the 2 years they spent together. Cain got a mother's love for the first time while Lilith felt what it means to be a mother. His wives also bonded with Lilith. Cain kept on visiting Nyx, but her current situation was bad. According to Cain, she will be able to survive at best for a decade before she goes into slumber, only to be woken up sometime later after an unknown stretch of time. So, Adjuka's news that he had managed to develop a full working set of evil pieces was a very good message to Cain. Now he could start his plans for the Greek pantheon and hell. Adjuka had called a meeting for the Satans and Ziera in order to show them his best invention till now just below Kankara formula, in terms of effectiveness. Cain and Ziera teleported in Agars and came face to face with the other 3 Satans waiting for them. Finally you two came, I was getting impatient. Adjuka said and started walking towards his lab's inner parts. The other 4 followed him silently. Only Cain knew what this was all about, with the other Satans only knowing superficially about this. After the group reached at a table with a box on top of it. The box was brown with gold outlines and the written on top of it in silver Lati letter was Pars Mala, roughly translating to evil pieces. Cain, seeing that, was giddy as he could start a lot of his plans with these in his hands. After that, Adjuka on the box which revealed the standard 15 pieces of a chess game and started to explain the evil pieces. These are evil pieces. They are the boon that will help overcome the poor fertility of the devil race. But not in a conventional way, in a very interesting way. Seraphal, unable to contain her curiosity, asked. Come on, Aju-chan, explain it already, stop being dramatic. Seeing that, Adjuka nodded his head and continued. These can reincarnate recently died beings or those who are alive and turn them into devil if their original race's bloodline is weak, or if strong then into mixed hybrids. Hearing that, Falbium woke up for his perpetual sleep mode and asked with a heavy voice which he only used when serious. Do you even know the consequences of that knowledge being out, Adjuka? But Cain interjected and said, calm down Falbium, Adjuka must have though of it and I believe he isn't finished yet. Hearing Cain, Falbium went silent but was wide awake. Stroking his goatee, Adjuka continued with his explanation. But these aren't absolute, so they can't reincarnate gods or Buddhas. They can work on ascended beings if the user is strong, and the person to be revived is dead. They have been created using the unique crystals founding the Agar's territory. Each of the pieces act just like their chess counterpart. Knight increases speed and agility, Bishop gives boost in magic, Rook in strength and defense, Queen is an overall boost, Pawns also give an overall boost less than the Queen but they can promote with the permission from the King. Hearing the brief initial explanation by Ajuka, Cain asked the question. Any drawbacks? Yes, there are a few. The reincarnated devil if runs away from the king piece will transform into a beast losing its reason and only acting on its instinct. The time depends on how strong the devil is. That is the only major drawback but it also acts as an barrier for those who own it to betray. Hearing that Sirafal said. All this is good but if this is known to the other pantheons they will get angry, that we can take their fighters and make them devils. Not to mention that the devils themselves are pretty selfish and dumb they may start a war by reincarnating an important member of other faction by force or trickery. Hearing that Falbam nodded his head and looked towards Cain. We need someone who can make sure that the reincarnated devil is here by their own will. We need an administrator for this. I think I have a candidate for it. Then I will leave that you Cain. Ajuka replied. After that Ajuka explained some of the more complicated functions of the evil pieces like the mutation piece. At the end it was decided that the Satans will build their peerage first and then it would be made available to the other high-class devils. At the end Cain also asked Ajuka something. We need to create a system for registering the kings, as there aren't any king pieces as I can see. Hearing that Ajuka sighed and said. The system is easy to make, we need a monument where every devil will register in presence of a Satan. But the king pieces exist but they are too powerful. I stopped making them after the 9th one. Create a tracker for them and let them be accidentally taken by the GKF. Hearing that everyone was shocked and Ziera asked. Why would you do that? From what Ajuka said their boost lies somewhere between 10 to 100 times. No matter how much they boost, they will still be weak and we can take them out easily and I know for a fact that the old coots will use them for their own gains meaning more blackmail material for us, the Satan faction. And it's not like they will reach the super devil level by that. Hearing that Ziera and the other marveled at Cain's intelligence. After that Cain spoke now I have a very important announcement for the Satans which will be revealed to the common devils and other devils lord at the suitable date in the future. Hearing Cain say that the Satans got interested while Ziera knew what was coming. In the coming few years after I have gathered some of my peerage members we will transfer the Devil Society into a separate dimension, making us independent. Before you guys panic I will handle the stuff required but be prepared. Ajuka was the first to think and ask but how? We need a core for the dimension, a caretaker, an anchor, and need to get Hades and Olympus agreed to it as we will take everything the devils have constructed. Yeah I know, I have plans to make a deal with Olympus directly, I also have a caretaker in mind, and I will get the core too. And for the anchor I think I have the best possible one. Saying so Cain revealed a glowing rainbow-colored seed which gave a miasma out front it. Even the Satans present here could feel the power in the seed. Holy shit, Cain is that what I think it is? Yes, it is a world tree seed. Sirafal screamed what the actual flying fuck? You have world tree seed. Everyone looked at her at shock hearing her swear. She got embarrassed and said quickly. I do that sometimes stop staring at me like a prized exhibitionist. Falbium in a shocked voice asked how did you even get one? Those are as rare as getting Zeus to stop being a horny guy. Played some Doom IRL and got it as a reward. What? Ziera asked this time and other looked at him. Ignore it. It was luck in the dimensional gap. Oh. Combined the other devils present said. There are many dying pantheons out there. I can get a dimension core and a caretaker from them. The only thing I need is a caretaker for the world tree, that will be my peerage member most possibly a fairy due to their expertise in this subject. After some time Cain explained to them his plan about how he will manage stuff and then dropped the second bomb. Lilith, the queen of the devils and my mother is alive. What? The hell? Za fuck. Dio. The reaction of the three were wild, making Cain spurt out some an unintended name but as experienced devils who have lived a long time and hold important positions they calmed themselves and asked. Can I experiment on her? How strong is she? Can she motivate the military? Can I meet her? Big fan personally. Ziera looked at the ceiling and said these are supposed to be the strongest, most respected Satans of the devils. After explaining them how he healed and rejecting both Falbium's and Ajuka's request Cain took the first batch of the evil piece and the other Satans took their two. But surprisingly Ziera denied to make a peerage of her own. Her reason being that it will put even more work on her. And she didn't want to manage a whole team of troublemakers who are strong. Now Cain went back to his castle with Ziera and just as they reached, Ziera asked her a question. Is your deal with Olympus got to do with your secret lover there? Yes, she is a part of that. Cain till now had only told her that he had a secret lover who was a deity of Olympus not her real identity. He kept it secret for everyone as a surprise. And the time for it to be revealed was coming closer. Just wait NYX, I am coming to get you soon. The second part of turning the Devil Society into hell has just begun. Chapter 50, True Leviathan. Third-person POV. Cain could be seen getting ready for an important occasion. It was the inauguration of a new hospital created by the Satrai clan. Sirafal had invited him to do the honors. So he was getting ready. Rayla and Ziera were busy with their works and he couldn't reveal his mom to the underworld just yet, so he was going with Graphia. After getting dressed up, Cain met up with Graphia in the hall and teleported near the hospital, away from any eyes. Sensing his demonic signature, Sirafal quickly reached near him and took him to the gate. There he quickly cut the ribbon and said a few words for the common devils and then came to the main topic. Sirafal had asked him to be present here not for the inauguration, but for something else. And he came here today, so currently he was following Sirafal towards a distant room of the hospital. He asked what is the reason, Sira? You seem kinda nervous. The reply came in a manner which was different from Sirafal's usual way of talking. Yes, I am. I hope you don't get too surprised with the thing I am about to show you. It's on the same level as Lady Lilith being alive. Hearing that both Graphia and Cain were interested in the show that Sirafal was about to put up. Just as the trio entered the building, Cain saw a young girl about 16 years old lying down on the bed. She had purple hair, which was messy, and slept with a serene expression of peace on her face. She gave off a whimsical aura even when asleep, and it contained a hint of draconic essence in it. This made Cain consider her heritage with great interest. After all, she was hidden by Sirafal, high noble-like dresses, and a hint of draconic aura. Cain stood and waited for Sirafal to explain the girl's origin and her backstory. Seeing that Graphia motioned to Sirafal to start, as Sirafal was clueless that Cain wanted her to start. Seeing Graphia's gesture, Sirafal started. This girl's name is Ingvilt Leviathan. Hearing that, Cain sighed and said, yeah, this is going to hurt my brain so much. Graphia, that roster for my peerage, we have a bishop left, right? Yes, my lord. I think we found that. Please write it down when you go back. Sirafal ignored Cain's sulkiness and continued. She was found in the basement of the Leviathan clan. My guess is that she is the granddaughter of Tsufami. And why was Lord Cain not informed of such a matter immediately? This time Graphia spoke up to Sirafal. Sirafal replied, I thought that she had some disease, so I tried to get her healthy and then talked to Cain about it, but it turns out she has sleeping disease, and it has no cure. But just a few months ago I found out that she has a sacred gear, a strong one, so I thought that maybe Cain can do something. Graphia looked like she was about to verbally abuse Sirafal for this blunder, but Cain interjected. FIA, calm down. I know you two have a rivalry, but not now. Yes, my lord. Alright, let's see what I can do. But Sira, remember to tell me such thing immediately. You know how bad things can get if the GKF knew of her, or worse, the runaway Satan faction members knew about this. Sorry, Cain. Even Cain was stumped at this, as he had no knowledge that such a disease existed prior to his reincarnation. So he tried to use his near-perfect mana control to check her situation and found out the cause of the problem. This isn't the sleeping disease, it's her devil heritage and sacred gear not cooperating with each other. What do you mean? Even Sirafal, someone who is good at healing, wasn't able to tell this. So she was interested. Well, you see, most of the time a devil bloodline dominates the human bloodline, just like my brother. Even if he had Lilith's blood in him, he was still pure-blooded Lucifer. But I am not, now at least. What? Anyways, so in rare cases like her where the devil bloodline isn't able to dominate and she becomes a hybrid, on top of it she is a sacred gear user. So they oppose each other. Sacred gear uses energy to awaken. It is a strong one, so it must have absorbed all of her energy. So that is why she is not waking up. That is just half the problem. Now that the devil side of her isn't providing energy and the premature awakening of her sacred gear used up her human powers, she is in coma. Most gears at this level awaken at a later stage slowly, or if it is sentient then it can use the devil side powers. How can a sentient sacred gear use the devil side powers? Sirafal asked. Simple, the devil power just opposes the holy power, which has its trace in the scared gear, but it has no sentience, so it can be controlled. But as this girl doesn't have a sentient scared gear, a strong devil bloodline, premature awakening taking away her human powers and some other factors lead to this situation. So can you cure her or not? Sirafal asked excitedly. As if Cain knew this much, he must have a way. What she didn't know was that he had so much knowledge due to Ajuka. Cain and Ajuka talked a lot about souls, and naturally they talked about sacred gears due to their connection with soul, hence Cain was able to think this much. Let's see if I can or not. Saying so, Cain put his hand on the girl's stomach and started pushing his energy inside her sacred gear in order to awaken it completely. Also he connected her sacred gear to her devil side, so as to not have any problems in the future. But the sacred gear only completely awakened after taking a Satan's equivalent of demonic energy. Shocking Cain, he was able to do this because of his precise control, knowledge of souls thanks to Ajuka and his scythe, and not to mention his large demonic energy reserves. After that he stood aside and waited for the sleeping beauty to wake up, as he had done what he could. Ingvilt Leviathan slowly opened her eyes, the sterile scent of the hospital reaching her senses. The world around her was unfamiliar, and confusion clouded her expression. She tried to move, but her body felt heavy, as if it hadn't moved in ages. Cain Levon Lucifer stood by her bedside, an amused glint in his eyes. Well, Ingvilt. Looks like you've finally decided to rejoin the living. Ingvilt blinked, her gaze shifting from Cain to the room. Where am I? Her voice was hoarse, unaccustomed to speaking. Sirafal, although not related to Ingvilt but sharing the same last name, entered the conversation with a bright smile. Ah, Ingvilt-chan, welcome back. She approached with enthusiasm, seemingly unaffected by the gravity of the situation. Ingvilt's confusion deepened as she studied Sirafal. Who are you? Sirafal's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered. Oh, don't you worry about that. We'll get you up to date. She exchanged a glance with Cain. Cain, still amused, leaned against the wall. You've been in a coma for decades, Ingvilt. Things have changed, and you've got some catching up to do. Ingvild struggled to absorb the information, her mind a haze of uncertainty. Decades? But, how? Grafia, maintaining her usual stoic expression, said to Ingvild. You contracted a rare magical disease that put you in a deep slumber. Lord Cain here, she gestured to Cain, decided to wake you up. Ingvild's eyes darted between them, the reality sinking in slowly. Cain? Grafia? Sirafal? I don't know any of you. Sirafal chuckled nervously. Well, that's to be expected. But we're here to help you, Ingvild, right Cain-kun? Cain smirked. Consider it a wake-up call to the new Devil Society. After that fiasco, the three of them helped Ingvild get accustomed to the basic things of the underworld. But just as Sirafal was about to take Ingvild back to her house to help her, Cain asked Ingvild a question. Ingvild, would you like to join my peerage? Hearing that Sirafal spoke up Cain, she just woke up from a long slumber. She doesn't even understand what's a peerage. Then let her decide for herself. Let her go on a journey in the underworld. Alone, only someone to make sure she isn't hurt, lost, and deceived. She needs to live it herself to understand it. After that, when she has seen for herself, she can make a decision. Grafia also supported Cain in his talk. Indeed, she has lost a lot of time, so let her spend it peacefully. We can have this talk when she is more mature. Sirafal, seeing that, looked towards Ingvild and promoted her to speak her mind. I don't know what you talked about, but I think it was meant to be a good thing for me. So I am thankful to you, Cain. Saying so, Ingvild showed a beautiful smile, captivating everyone present there with her innocent thought. Sirafal sighed seeing this and said, fine, I will make sure you aren't in trouble. But remember to ask us for help if you are in trouble. Cain also added, also remember that your name is for now only Ingvild, no Leviathan. We do not want a political shitstorm now. After that, Sirafal took Ingvild to get her up to date and sent her on a journey of self-discovery. Cain sent Grafia to inform Ajuka and Falbium about it. And he would inform Ziera, Rayla, and his mother about it. A few weeks have passed since Cain healed Ingvild, and now he is going on a journey to the north, to find the queen candidate he has in his mind for his peerage. Are you sure, Cain? She may be stronger than you anticipate. After all, she is in the top 10 ranking. Yes, so am I, you, and Ajuka. Calm down, I will be fine. I am not worried for you losing but banging that witch before you even come back with her. Oh, don't worry, I will try my best to not do such a thing. Saying so to Ziera, Cain went to Europe. Cain POV. I had teleported directly to Scotland and from there went near the Isle of Skyle. The events of the Ulster cycle are said to happen in the 1st century, but the castle of Dunscaith was built in 1181, which contradicts, as this is the castle protected by the warrior maiden Skaithek. There must have been a reconstruction in between, or a god must have interfered. Most probably Norse. Thinking such, I went inside the castle, which was, although on a very beautiful place, the act of time on it left it in a very ruined state. And due to the natural barrier here, it isn't possible for humans to repair it. I went near the castle gate and stood there for a while thinking on how get her to agree to join my peerage. It's almost guaranteed for me to fight her, and I am all for it. Been a while since I had a good fight. But the question still remains, her wish is to die by a warrior's hand. How do I get her to change that and make her join my peerage? Oh, I also need to kill her as she is a divine spirit, do the rules that Ajuka told me. Suddenly an idea came to my mind, making me grin like the devil I was. I will fulfill her request, while also making sure she will join my peerage. After all, a devil, especially a Lucifer, is gotta deceive people, right? Saying so, I opened the door of the castle and entered. As I stepped through the gate of the castle of Dunscaith, the air around me transformed into an eerie wind. The land of shadows revealed itself, an otherworldly realm cloaked darkness. Eerie whispers lingered, carried by winds that moved with the shadows themselves. Wandering through landscape, I encountered the remnants of the once living, now twisted into dark forms. They attacked me, but they were weak. A single swing from my scythe destroyed them and they returned into the shadows. This continued for a while till I reached a different place. In the middle of the Deathland, a huge castle loomed on the horizon. The structure exuded a deathly presence, its stone walls weathered by time, telling tales of a history lost in the shadows. A shiver of excitement crawled down my spine as I approached, feeling the presence of the person I came here for. Approaching the entrance, a figure materialized, a silhouette against the big gate of the castle. It was her, the Witch of Dunscaith, Scathatch. Her presence radiated a powerful aura, and as I drew near, her piercing red eyes met mine. Her purple hair cascaded like a waterfall, reaching her waist with an otherworldly glow. The tight bodysuit she wore accentuated the curves of her form, and a mysterious mask concealed the lower half of her face. In her hand, a crimson spear gleamed with an otherworldly energy. Image. Welcome, devil, she spoke, her voice cutting through the spectral silence. To traverse the land of shadows is no small feat. What brings you to my domain? The words carried a mixture of curiosity and authority. I gripped my scythe ready to start a duel with the famed Godslayer, in order to win her to my side. And I spoke with authority. Chapter 51, Interlude, Morningstar Saga, I third-person POV. Cain was sitting in his study with the Book of Lucifer in front of him. He till now only studied what he wanted to and skipped a lot of things. Thus he had decided that he will read this from the start. He opened the book and stared reading it. My birth. My birth wasn't normal. I came into existence when my father, God, created me. I had no knowledge about anything at that time, and being the first angel, Father taught me everything personally. I was perfect, beautiful beyond compare. Father said that I was even more beautiful than most gods, I was strong and smart. Few weeks later my father called me to show something. We lived in a separated dimension, few gods existed and even less pantheons. Having a separate pantheon was considered a sign of personal strength and was very rare. Father wasn't strong in a fight, but he was versatile. His sealing magic and creation magic were very hard to counter. That day I saw the creation of another angel, to be more correct it would be angels. They were to be my little brothers, I will show them my greatness, that was my thought. Father named them, Michael, Samael, Azrael and Metatron. They were just like I was after being born. Father told me that along with me and the newly born us 5 will be the archangels. I knew without even him telling that I was the leader. After all it was obvious that someone perfect like me will be the leader. Azrael was giving the name Angel of Death. Metatron was Father's scribe. Samael was the venom of God. I was called the light bringer and to my surprise Michael was called who is like God. I thought that it was a rhetorical name. After all I was the one most like God. But I knew even my father wasn't perfect like me, so he must have made a mistake. Thus I didn't give much thought to it. Father also taught them like me, and then he went on to create the other seraphs, those who will be below us. Azrael was perpetually silent, never saying much. Samael was always scheming something. Metatron was always writing things about Father and Michael. I hated him. He always acted like he was Father's greatest creation, acting like the leader and most of all always opposing my ideas. But still he was doing this because he didn't know my greatness, he will soon know about it. There were 10 seraphs in total, but I had eyes only for one, my little sister and what I could consider to be my equal in beauty, but I am sure she is slightly below me, even if only I can see that. Gabriel, she a bundle of innocence, always clinging to me or Michael. Her aura was such that even Azrael and Samael were nice to her. Soon she became the most loved angel of all, replacing me. I was angered but still I knew that I was better. The other seraphs were named by Father as Sandalphon, Raguel, Cyril, Remiel, Raziel, Uriel, Raphael, Cassiel, and Azazel. These 10 were taught by the 5 of us, 2 each and fortunately or unfortunately the ones I got were Cassiel and Camael. I wished that I got Gabriel for her popularity and Uriel for his strength but Father's orders were supreme. Even though I voiced my discontent shocking the other archangels, I was denied and Michael got Gabriel along with Raphael. I educated them with my perfect ways and showed them how close to God I am and that I am his successor. In the meanwhile Father was creating other angels. After creating a suitable number of angels, Father went on to expand our dimension and named it Heaven. It was divided into 7 layers, we archangels and seraphs were assigned the 6th level while Father was in the 7th. And as expected Father announced something I had seen long coming. Lucifer's POV. My children, I would like to tell you that I have succeeded in creating my masterpiece, the Heavens system. After that Father explained it and said the line I was overjoyed after hearing. Lucifer can also access it, along with Michael. My world stopped. Why Michael? Wasn't I better? Why did he get what only I was supposed to? With these questions filling my mind, I immediately went inside my house and struck the wall with strength enough to shake it. Soon after I calmed down and thought about it. Just then I sensed Gabriel entering the house and looking at me, concern on her face. No, don't feel that for me. I am perfect. I don't anyone's help. Brother, are you feeling unwell? You ran away back then. I said no Gabriel, I am fine. As for me running I thought of a new trick so I thought about trying it, so I came immediately. Hearing that she looked happy and said in a cheerful tone, oh really? I always like the tricks you do. I thought that she was really honest so I asked her, Gabriel, who do you think Father loves more, me or Michael? Hearing that her face changed and she looked like she was in a dilemma and said with unsure voice, I don't know, but I think Father loves every one of us equally. Lucifer was angry but he sighed and said, forget it, it was stupid of me to ask you. You can go now. Gabriel hearing that from me looked confused but went back, leaving me with my worries. Heaven was growing really nicely, but the other gods were also creating their own pantheons. I heard that Cronus had rebelled against Uranus and somehow managed to win. Shiva as always was calm with nothing to fear, same with his pantheon. Okwang and his imperial court were also peaceful, only some minor fight between the 4 beasts. The major concern was Olympus and Norse. It was just revealed that Odin had a world tree named Yggdrasil, and Olympus just went through a change in leadership. Father had warned us that we may need to fight against Cronus as he was a conqueror. He may lay his eyes on our dimension. But I was unafraid, if that giant piece of ugliness comes, I will show him my strength. Though Michael was worrying unnecessarily, just like the coward he is. Today I went to Father to ask a question, which was bugging me for a long time. I tried to find the answer for it myself but failed, even my genius intellect was failing, but this in no way due to my mistake, I just didn't have much information on this topic. Just as I entered the 7th floor, I found Father attempting to create another life form, but it was not an angel, it was more like the apes on the lower world. Ignoring his weird tendencies, I asked my question. I didn't greet him as he already knew I was here. He knew everything that went in this dimension. Father, I have a question, what is divinity? My creator looked at me and said, I was wondering what question you would ask and it seems that it's an interesting one. Let's start with the basics. Every god, whether innate, ascended or created has divinity, that much is a universal truth. But that isn't all. Divinity is the very essence of a god, their powers all come from divinity until they train to gain another powers. So if a god doesn't train their physical body, it will only be strong as their divinity can make it. Then does all gods have same amount of divinity at birth? In the first place, how is a god born? I raised a question. Hearing that, father smiled and continued. The birth of a god is a very rare thing. You need faith from masses, a divinity for the god, and most importantly, you need to have believed from the peoples that the god exists even though he doesn't. For that way a god is born. Each god had a fixed amount of divinity at birth. They gain more by training, getting older and stronger, and from their believers. These gods born from nothingness but pure belief are called innate gods. Humans, or other being which become gods, are called ascended gods, and gods born from the union of two gods are created gods, although sometimes a created god can also be an innate god, if their legend exists while they were conceived. Hearing that, I was in deep thought, but I pushed my thought back in my mind and asked more. Then how good is divinity? Can it be countered? Divinity is very versatile. It can almost do anything depending on its type. My divinity of creation, after me mastering it, can create life forms with high amounts of strength, so divinity is very useful. But as everything has its weakness, divinity has its too. A god's and his followers' beliefs make the divinity stronger. If someone can make the god doubt their own divinity, then there is a moment in which the divinity is not usable, thus allowing a chance. But if one is much stronger than the god, there's no need for this. Hearing that, I nodded my head and then went back. It looks like I need to research more about divinity, and if possible find a way to use it myself. But let's wait for that. I need to work on the heavens system for now. Before Michael learns how to do so, I must complete my plan to not be affected by it. I was on my way to Samael, when Azrael approached me and said, Lucifer, I am having trouble regarding how to capture souls. As bland as always, I see my brother. To be honest, this sounds like a skill issue, but being the great being I am, I will help you. Third person POV. I think this much is enough for one day. Cain said to no one but himself. I might be affected by my father's narcissism if I read more, but this sure gave me 2 ways to counter divinity. With a satisfying read, Cain went back to sleep, or not, as he had a few girls to bang. Chapter 52, Getting a Queen. Third person POV. Cain spoke with authority in his voice. Skathak, I propose a duel against you. The winner gets their wish fulfilled. Hearing that, the stoic face of the immortal witch showed amusement, and she spoke. Her voice had a detached tone to them, but it still gave of a feeling of warmth. It was really a novel feeling for Cain. Is she like Lilith? Because I can feel some older sister vibes from her. My wish is to die by your hands, but you need to win against me, child. Oh sure, my wish is that if I manage to kill you, then you will become my queen. Heeding that, Skathak laughed. Her voice was sweet, but this time there was no feeling of warmth. And she spoke. Many things truly. I robbed many lives. A man. A wraith. A god. I've confronted many existences of a countless number, slaughtering all those near me. Fight. 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 Kill. 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 In the end, this body was wet with the blood of many victims, and became immortal. The territory under my rule, the land of shadows, was ultimately forced out to the dimension outside of the world, and I ended up being promoted into an existence no different than that of a divine spirit. I will not grow old. I will not die. I've changed into that which is immortal. Sure enough, I can no longer remember exactly how much time have passed since the first time I picked up a spear in my hand. It is different from something good. I, who stood on the haunted ground and guarded the gate, already since acquired the wisdom of the abyss, so I am able to measure the exact time. However, I simply do not feel like doing it. It is different from melancholy. It is also different from resignation. Regret? I do not understand. I can say that, but I am unable to affirm it. That is my legend. So I hope you can live up to your claims, Lucifer. Hearing that, Cain also responded with equal fervor. I severed the thread of fate of an entire species, extinguishing their existence from this plane. I killed the descendants of Satan, a bloodline known for its tyranny. The underworld trembled at my name. I fought the angel of stars and the one who sees the name. In the end, I stood at the top of the sins of humanity and devils. I became the king of hell and devils. I am Cain Levon Lucifer. Hearing his legend, Skathatch got excited and gripped her spear tightly and launched it at him without any further delay. Cain also responded by deflecting her spear with his scythe. Without giving any time, the spearwoman dashed forward and threw a punch at Cain. He responded by leaving his scythe and catching the punch with his hand while punching her with his other. Skathatch dropped down and tried to sweep his leg with speed, but Cain was one step ahead and jumped backwards, avoiding the sweep. Just as he landed, he threw a front kick at Skathatch, who defended using her hands but was thrown backwards. In the short time that she was in the air, she summoned her spear back and rushed in to attack Cain. Cain also took his scythe back and matched Skathak's spear. But in overall matchup of skill, Cain was losing. His scythe mystery was a level below the spear mastery of the Queen of the Land of Shadows. But his physical stats were better, so he was keeping up. Her skills and combat sense is truly astonishing. Even I am being left behind. But she should be lacking in mana compared to me. Thinking so, Cain jumped back and created distance while simultaneously launching spears made up of dark light. Skathak dodged them, but they suddenly extended and became chains, but even in surprise she managed to dodge most of them, but one of them managed to get her leg. It immediately started drawing her stamina and mana. She was about to use her spear to break it, but Cain intervened. She was forced to fight him while being chained down. Now I just need to stall for time. This was easier than I thought. But immediately after Cain regretted thinking that Skavek released a rune which blasted him away, and in the short time he slowed down, another rune broke the dark light chain. But Cain was still confident that he would win easily. As Skaveka's biggest weapon, her boost when fighting against gods will not work. But then Skaveka's magic power started rising, going past the Satan level and entering the Superdevil level. Don't tell me I fucking jinxed it. Then a voice rang out, this time filled with elegance of a god and the frostiness which rivaled the Norse Teutons. Cain, was it? You may have an advantage over me if you came a few centuries earlier, but as of now I think you would lose. The reason for this was that during the 10th century, Lucifer had awoken and attacked Asgard. In that battle a frost giant named Skadi played a major role but ended up dying. Odin, in order to not let her die, came to the land of shadows where he made a deal with Skavek. He offered her to teach the true and complete primordial rune, a thing that only he knew, to her in exchange for fusing with Skadi. Skavek accepted it due her being a curious person who likes to get stronger, and she already knew some beforehand. In the fusion she came up as a dominant personality, but the traces of safety ended up in her along with her abilities. Thus Skavek Skadi was born. Now she had the spear arts of her own, primordial rune, frost magic equal to gods, and was immortal with a lot of battle experience. Skavek was only in the top 10 due her godslaying ability which strengthened her when she fought a god. But now with the fusion she was in top 10 even if her opponent was not a god. Well, this is more like it. I thought this was not that hard. Bring it on, Queen of Snow and Ice. Skavek responded to that with a barrage of ice spears, which Cain countered with his dark light. But now that his opponent matched him in physical stats thanks to giant powers, Cain was being pushed back. In Dunskaith, she had complete control over whatever was happening. All of Cain's moves were already known by her before he used them. He needed to change them at the last moment every single time. On top of that, she was able to summon weaker versions of Valkyries almost endlessly. And she was launching mass-produced G-blogs using her magic. The mass-produced Valkyries only took a single blow to destroy, but every blow took a precious moment of this fight. Same thing happened with the spears. Damn, she truly lives up to her titles, every single one of them. But just then she stopped and lifted her spear, cast a rune on it and then started concentrating her all on the spear. And then another spear came in her hands. She rushed in close, Cain dodged, but she already knew it. She attacked at the spot Cain dodged. In haste Cain managed to stop the spear, but it pierced his hand. And he got stuck, he couldn't move, and then the voice rang. This spear is an embodiment of who I am. And I am the epitome of the spear. Gi-Balg, spear of piercing death. And she threw the spear with all of her might. It reached Cain before even he could process what happened, and the spear struck. A blinding explosion was created, raising shadows so high that nothing was visible. Skaveka's body was hurt, so she was using the runes to heal her. It was pity he died like that, but to be able to force me to use my ice magic and Gi-Balg, he was strong. Just then the sound of clapping echoed in the silent realm. Great, magnificent, till now you are the second person to make me transform into my superdevil form. Congratulations Skavek Skadi, your wish will now be fulfilled. Cain walked out of the dust unharmed, just without his shirt. He had long black hair, purple eyes, his height rose a little and his body got more defined. He also had a tail now. Image. Just before the spear touched him, Cain got serious and transformed into his superdevil form, acknowledging his opponent's strength. But now it was decided who the winner was. Just as Skavek healed fully, she heard a voice behind from her. Why don't you heal while throwing your spear? Why wait? She threw a kick lightning fast but only hit air. In the short period of that kick, Cain reached behind her and kicked her. She managed to put her spear between her body and that kick but still got launched away while her arm broke. From therefore on, Cain continuously attacked her without any rest. Even her healing was slowing down, none of the runes were working. Skavek was fighting solely based on her instinct. Seeing this, Cain spoke. Why do you trust your instincts so much? They are honed by the battles I have fought during the past centuries, they are the most reliable thing I have. Oh really? Cain instantaneously reached beside her and punched her. He focused his killing intent on it wholeheartedly. Skavek, sensing his intent, guarded against that punch, but he stopped at the last moment and kneed her in the stomach. The attack brought her to the knees while she vomited blood. Never be so sure of anything. This is a simple tactic, but it worked because of my intent and your instincts. If you could see me you would have dodged this too. And what is this? I thought you would attack me with a big one again. Oh, I will. Saying so, far an immense of power started gathering around the witch. The entirety of the land of shadows was hers to command. The entire power of an realm, combined with the Gi-Balg and Gi-Balg alternative, both boosted by the primordial rune of death and piercing. She thrusted it with all her might, making the bones of her hand a mush. Spear of mortal death, extinction spike. The thrust took the form of a Chinese dragon made out of blood, giving off an aura of death. This attack had the cause and effect ability. This was a sure hit kill attack. It will change its direction just to hit the target. And attack stronger than Odin's Gungnir. The attack which even gods can't survive. The attack which made Skavek a Godslayer. I can't dodge it, it will hit me regardless. Well, let's stop it then. Cain stood steadfast in the way of the spear of death. And when it reached near his chest, caught it with his hand. The spear tried to change its path, but Cain was stubborn with his strength to back it up. The entirety of the realm tried to force the spear into Cain's chest but failed to do so. Fuck this, I need to make sure that she is free of any other divine authority. Cain took his scythe in one hand and stopped the spear with one hand. His hand was getting more and more destroyed every moment. But he persisted, and a large scythe, the one which beheaded his brother and ended the civil war, was once again forming. With a silent acknowledgement for his opponent's strength, Cain swung his scythe, destroying the land of shadows and the attack. Just as the scythe connected with the ground, cracks in the very fabric of reality appeared. They started growing larger and larger till the land of shadows broke like pieces of glass. To avoid causing such massive destruction, which was the result of a dimension breaking along with the strongest devil's attack, he opened a portal to the dimensional gap and diverted all the energy into it. This attack destroyed a weakened world tree, so the land of shadows was not able to withstand it. The scenery changed and he found himself standing in front of the Dunscaith castle on Earth, while Skaithik stood at the gate in awe of the spectacle Cain just pulled. Cain then teleported behind he and said, "You even got stronger in this fight. Indeed, I have no regrets." Just as that happened, the scythe of death pierced the chest of the immortal witch. Due to the destruction of the land of shadows, she was no longer immortal, and thus the Godslayer died. Now I need to think of a motivational speech so that she has the will to live, Cain thought with a sigh. Soon after, Cain took out his queen piece and put it in Skaithika's chest, and started chanting, and with his chant the Lucifer clan circle came beneath her. "I, Cain Levon Lucifer, hereby order you. Heed me, Skaithik Skadi, bring your soul back to this world and become my queen devil. You shall become my queen and rejoice in your newfound life." With the completion of the chant, the piece went inside her. Soon after, her body glowed and the wound healed. Sensing that the process was successful, Cain lifted her in a princess carry and teleported back to his castle. After reaching there, he put her on a bed and ordered some maids to look after her. And he then went to talk with his wives. Chapter 53, Life and Death. Third-person POV. Later the night that Cain brought Skaithik with him, she woke up and found herself still alive and inside an unknown room. She at first was bewildered due to the fact that she thought she was dead, but then she could feel her heart beating right now. She carefully reached towards the door. Her spear was not in the room, but she was confident in her skills without it. Just as she was about to open the door opened and Cain walked in, surprising her. But being a veteran warrior, she was calm and asked her murderer and most probably reviver, "Care to explain, Lucifer?" Cain, hearing that, sighed and motioned for her to sit, and himself sat down on a chair. Skaithik remained motionless, but after another gesture, the maiden warrioress sat down on the bed. After that, Cain explained to her what he did and how the evil pieces worked. After hearing the explanation of Cain, Skaithik stayed silent for some time and then spoke. "So you deceived me? And if I deny to be your queen, then what? Will I be forced?" "Yes. And no, if you really do not want to work with me, then I can take the evil piece out, and in a way such that it will kill you or leave you alive as per your wish." Hearing that, Skaithik again contemplated something, but Cain spoke. "But from what I can see, you always lived your life confined by ideals imposed on you. Just because you are better capable and better than others doesn't mean you must rule them. Live for yourself. How would you know what a life of a ruler is like?" "Oh, I do know. I am the ruler of the Underworld. And most of time I run away from my duties and thrust them on my friends, wives, family, and servants." Hearing that, Skaithik looked at him in astonishment, but before she could say something, Cain again spoke up. "And there is another reason. You have lust for growing stronger." Hearing that, Skaithik looked shocked, and Cain, knowing he hit the mark, continued. "You improved in the fight against me till the last. You fought so hard against me even after knowing I would win. If your wish really is to die, then why try so hard? That would not be a warrior's death. Come on. That's just you deluding yourself. There are more than enough people out there who can kill you, but you never sought them out but waited for them to come to you. And you continued to train even in the land of shadows." Cain stopped to let his words sink in and then spoke finally. "Give me a chance, I will show you what is life. Live as a woman and as a being of your own way, not because of someone other's way. And you are immortal, although with a very long lifespan. I will be the judge of it." Hearing that, Cain internally high-fived himself out of excitement. But outwardly he showed a sincere smile and said, "All right, I will try my best to prove myself, Your Majesty." Hearing that, just for a moment a small but noticeable smile appeared, though it disappeared quickly. Cain saw it. And then he said, "If you need anything, ask a maid. The silver-haired one is Graphia, my Lucifuge. The white-haired one, Succubus, is my mom. I think you know her name. The red-haired and blonde-haired ones are my wives, Ziera and Rayla. Also there are two other maids, one with short black hair and a stoic face, Vanessa, and the one with brown hair, green eyes and cheerful personality, Melissa. I will remember it." But before he could go, he was asked another question by his newly made queen. "When is another member for your peerage coming?" "In a few weeks, I guess. I will tell you before that. I hope you can play your role." "Sure." With that being said, Cain went back to his work and decided the future members of his peerage. Just after Cain went out of Skaithika's room, sometime later Lilith went inside the room. Her intention unknown. Cain was lying in the bed with Rayla beside him. They were talking about the hell-building plans of Cain. "So have you decided who are you going to get as your next peerage member?" "Yes, it's going to be Morgan Le Fay." "You sure are going for big names? First the Godslayer, now the Black Madonna." "Yeah, but before that I need to talk with a certain goddess, who owes me a favor." "Is it about the time when you went along with Ziera and her friends? She told you about that?" "Yes, she pretty much tells me everything if I ask for it. Her family obsession is off the charts." "Oh, yeah, I need to ask for the favor now. What if she doesn't agree to it? I have other means, even though they less peaceful, but still they work great." "But who is that goddess?" "Ereshkigal." Cain was on his way to the forgotten and almost dead Mesopotamian pantheon. He had planned to get the dimensional core of their pantheon, while simultaneously getting Ereshkigal on his side. Cain took the easy way. First he went in the dimensional gap and then wished to reach core, the underworld of the Mesopotamian pantheon. Reaching there he found himself in front of a massive gate. Etched in ancient text was the line, "Answer the question to pass." Reading that, Cain thought, even an almost dead pantheon has such conditions, but I can most probably force them. The first gate had the question written on it. What sacrifice are you willing to make for the greater good? Nothing. The only thing I will make a sacrifice is for my family and close ones. Greater good could die for all I care. The gate opened and Cain went inside. Cain expected that he would be hindered or lose some of his powers temporarily, but nothing happened. Looks like she doesn't have much power left, if she can't even fight me in her own domain. Seeing that, Cain started giving out whatever answers he pleased and he thought were right without giving much care. And within a few minutes he reached the last gate. The last question was, what is the nature of true strength? Cain spoke confidently. True strength is the ability to impose one's will on the world. And with that the final gate opened, revealing a horrifying landscape. Rivers with souls flowing in them, large cages containing the souls who screamed for escape, and the sky looking like an eternal burning hell. But Cain remained unfazed and went directly in front of the throne. On whom he wanted to meet was sitting the goddess of Kor, Ereshkigal. Currently Ereshkigal was quite in a predicament. She never expected that Cain would be able to overpower the gates of Kor and come inside without weakening. She had used the last remaining power of the dimensional core to use the powers of the gates, but she failed. She never thought that the young devil she met all those years ago would become this strong and come to her. Last time she met with him they made a deal and she owes him a favor. Now she is worrying, what will he ask? Cain was standing in front of Ereshkigal, who was sitting in her throne. Even though Cain could feel that she was weaker compared to before, she still was prudent. Now that Cain was standing near her he could see her beauty. Blonde hair, twin tails with red eyes, a very revealing clothing, paired with a single stirrup. If one might not know her much they may mistake her for Ishtar. No greetings? Someone visits your realm after all this time and you do this. Hearing that, Ereshkigal looked at the invader of her realm and said, as you could see, neither I nor the Mesopotamian pantheon is doing great. So state what you want and be begone. Hearing that she wanted him to come to the point directly, he stated his reason for coming here. I came for the favor you owe me. I think you already guessed that. So my favor is that I want the dimensional core of your pantheon. Hearing that, Ereshkigal was shocked and looked at Cain like an owl and spoke in a shrill voice. Are you mad? No, I can't give you that. That is the only hope this pantheon and me have. Saying so she took out her divine cage ready to fight Cain, but he raised hands and said, calm down and listen first. Also put your weapon down, you will be dead before you know it, if I am serious. Ereshkigal, knowing that Cain can back up his statement, composed herself and looked at him, gesturing him to speak his mind. I will take the dimensional core, make a new pantheon, hell, and I would give you the goddess position in it. Much more freedom than you have right now and ever had. You always wanted to go outside and see things right. Ereshkigal looked at Cain like he was a stupid guy and spoke incredulously. Are you dumb? Gods and their divinities don't work that way. We need to have our legends, myths, followers. Only few gods have the divinity they are born enough with to be strong and sustain themselves. Those are true gods, born by the world not by faith. Oh, are they? But what is to say I can't replicate it? If the entire hell is a dimension and I am soul, will and power of it. It doesn't work this way. Most gods are born without sentience, they gain it as they grow stronger. Those who are born with are called the true gods. They can live without any followers or faith. But other can't, as our very sentience and excitance is based on our faith. Even if you do so, I will only exist in hell, not outside, the same way as now. My myths make it such that I can't walk on the lands of the living. And I have talked with a goddess much older than you and she said I can do it. Older than me. Few gods are older than the gods of the underworld and death. Only the primordial and god kings are beings like that. And you talked to them? Even if you did, then it was someone stupid. Then how about a gamble? Give me the dimensional core. If I manage to make my words come true, then you join me, but if not, then you can kill me. Don't play smart with me. I can't kill you, and after I give you the dimensional core I will lose consciousness almost immediately. Cain said to pacify the goddess's doubt. What if I could keep you connected to the core even when it is out of the pantheon, on my expense of energy? Surely you can agree on that. To be fair, I am being generous here because I have a use for you, or else I would have simply taken it. Hearing that, Ereshkigal pouted but still reluctantly agreed with Cain. And this was only possible due to Cain showing his near-perfect control to her. Ereshkigal then took Cain to the center stone of the dimension in which the Mesopotamian pantheon lived. The dimensional core was a single golden orb, usually radiating immense amounts of energy, but currently it was dull and lacking its usual luster, due to the apparent weakness of the Mesopotamian pantheon and lack of faith to provide it energy. Cain went near it and grabbed it and then destroyed all the connection this thing had with the pantheon, only keeping the Ereshkigal one intact. And then used his own energy to maintain the connection. He quickly took Ereshkigal out of the dimension and into the dimensional gap. The dimension getting destroyed will attract the attention of many big hots, including a certain destroyer and a giant-ass red dragon. Cain then teleported back to his castle and showed Ereshkigal her room and introduced her to everyone. She hid behind Cain when she saw Skathik due to her title of the Godslayer. But after getting acquainted with her and Cain assuring her that she will not kill her, she shook hands with her. Cain mentally thanked that Skaithik didn't make things difficult. After this, Cain prepared to go for a trip to Europe in a few days to get another on of his important peerage members. But before that, her inquired about his future bishop, Ingvild, with Grafia, and found out that she was almost tricked many times, but managed to get out on her own and sometimes with Seraphal's help. Good, let her grow like this. And keep an eye on her at all times. And most importantly, do not let the GKF catch wind of her existence. Yes, my lord. Chapter 54, Fairy Queen. Third-person POV. Again, a few weeks have passed since the last time Cain went out. He was watching the shenanigans in his castle for the past few days. Skaithik being her usual self, Ziera trying to know everyone as everyone is family. Sometimes he wonders if she can match that one bald guy from his previous world. Rayla making money, Lilith being the best wing woman, hellbent on getting the Godslayer and Ereshkigal in his bed. Ereshkigal for the first time interacting with people who don't get scared by her. Grafia taking care of the most absurd requests of the two new residents. Everything was pretty amusing in its own way, but he can't stop now. He needs to get a fairy for his plan to continue. Someone needs to manage the world tree for him, and who better than a fairy? He first thought about Vivian, the Lady of the Lake. But seeing that she was a good person, he changed it to her counterpart, the Black Madonna, Morgan Elife. And what Cain found about her didn't disappoint him in the slightest. Having a scheme, and another one in the backup with a plot going in the background. Not trusting, evil, and all kinds of traits suitable for nourishing a world tree for the devils. The only question being, how am I supposed to get her in my peerage? Skaithik was sitting in front of him, hearing that she said, "Who?" "Morgan Elife, the Black Witch. It is fairly simple. I also have the title of the Lady of Spirits. I can get her to join me immediately." But Cain replied with astuteness, "No, I am the king. I must get her by myself. If you do so, she will listen to you, not me. And so did I pass your little test. So you knew. Well, I should have expected that. But yes, if you would have agreed, I would have failed you." Showing off his skills to Skaithik, Cain went to Europe in order to get the current location of Morgan. He knew that she was living in a forest which was completely isolated to any and all normal humans. And there were a lot of forests like that in Britain. Cain was hoping that his sense, which could span the entirety of Europe and more, will help him find the famed witch faster. Cain was in the middle of a forest currently searching for something he sensed. While flying, he felt a spatial disturbance arise from here but soon disappeared. Feeling that this might be the place, he came down and was searching for it. But the pulse never appeared again. Cain continued searching for it and couldn't find anything, so he decided to go into the dimensional gap. Going in, he could feel the fabric of space much better. And he could see that in the forest, there was a little pocket space hidden. This was much smaller than a dimension, but much easier to hide. But that posed no problem for those who knew how to traverse the dimensional gap. After all, the entire world was built on the dimensional gap, hence anything in the world unless very brilliantly hidden could not escape being breached from the dimensional gap. Cain teared a part of space and directly entered the little sanctuary of Morgan. Entering inside, Cain felt like he was inside a different world. No pollution, clear sky, and large variety of animals roaming around. He could even spot some fairies flying in the distance. The trees were massive and of vibrant colors. And in the horizon a massive castle stood, no doubt the abode of the fairy queen. Sensing Cain, the little fairies came close to him and tugged at his sleeves. "Devil? He's a devil. Hey you, this is fairy territory, go away." Another one said. "Oh, no, this devil has come to help the queen. Our lives will become even more worse." Hearing that, the other two distanced from him and attacked himself with their little attacks. Cain didn't feel any power in them, so he let them hit him and looked at them with his eyes. But the fairies mistakes him as preparing for an attack and started crying. "Please, spare us. Uwa, queen, help us." Seeing that they were just baby fairies, Cain touched their heads and poured a little energy, the purest one he could manifest. Sensing the pure energy, the fairies calmed down and spoke. "This devil is good. Devil man, help us defeat our queen. We will make a contract with you." Hearing that, Cain said, "Sure, why not? Take me to this queen of yours." Cain, while playing with the baby fairies and watching the pocket space, reached in front of the gate of the castle. Teaching there, the fairies stopped and said to him, "The queen lives inside, we can't go in." "Why? She is scary. She says we lack power and are unreliable." "Yeah, very scary." "Oh, so you guys go and play, I will talk to the scary queen." Hearing him say that, the three little fairies cried and said, "Don't die, kind devil man. Let's play sometime later. Beat the queen up." Cain laughed and then went inside the castle, whose gated were open as if inviting him. Fearlessly Cain waltzed in. Inside the castle, in the throne room, a single woman was sitting, with a large black spear leaning on her throne. Her eyes glinted with mysterious intent. Cain, reaching there, stood for a moment to appreciate the beauty of the fairy queen, as he was not uncouth, he was a man of culture. Long white hair with enchanting blue eyes, a revealing black and blue outfit showing her navel and abdomen, a black crown in her head, and a large black spear resting on her throne image. Morgan looked like the perfect queen to anyone who met her, but to Cain she was not the ideal queen. After all, he had met Skaithik and no queen comes close to her. "If you have watched my beauty enough, devil, state your reason for breaching my barrier and coming to my utopia." "I have come to the Black Madonna with deal." "Do you take me for a fool, making a deal with devil? And that silver hair of yours doesn't make it any better. What is your name?" "Cain Livon Lucifer, your majesty." Cain called her majesty, but Morgan felt that it was sarcasm. Morgan was the queen of fairies who were almost extinct and weak, while standing in front of her is the king of devils, who are a strong race. Knowing that she was provoking him by sitting on the throne while he was standing, as this could be seen by him, that she was not thinking him as an equal. But Morgan was an experienced queen. She stood up and said with grace, "Apologies for not knowing of your lineage, shall we go for a better place to talk?" Cain, knowing her intentions, didn't cause a scene and said sure. Morgan lifted her spear and started walking alongside Cain. She went out from the throne room and walked inside a room with a round table with 2 chairs, each made up of enchanted gold. They both sat on the chairs and then Morgan asked him, "So what is the deal you are proposing to me? First of all, let's talk about something. Do you know why no Pantheon acts you, like Odin must really want his Yggdrasil to run by fairies, not like the dragon in roots and some squirrels?" Hearing that, Morgan said, "Of course I have thought about that. He can't afford to win without some damage to the Norse pantheon." Cain sighed. Looks like she doesn't really know stuff or is too lost in her own world that she forgot that Thor is a god in the Norse pantheon. When was the last time you went outside, or what was the last major thing you know happened outside? Morgan looked in deep thought and then answered, "It's been 2 centuries since I went outside and I don't really keep a track of the outside. Many people will figure out this pocket space if I go out often. So you have no idea what happened in the devil faction or the supernatural in general? No. Well, let me get you updated." After that, Cain explained to the witch all that had happened in the last 2 centuries, and about Thor and the reason why no one attacked her. And finally the devil civil war and the evil pieces. Hearing that, Morgan was in shock. She, whose only goal was to rule over Britain, mostly ignored this stuff, but now she was bewildered by the knowledgeable Cain gave her. "So you are telling me that the only reason I wasn't attacked was because some another pantheon may use this excuse and start a divine war?" Yes, divine wars are troublesome. No one wants to start it, but everyone wants to participate in it. But then Morgan looked at Cain with renewed vigor and said, "Then I only need to get stronger and more powerful, right? If your deals help me with this, then I can make it." What a woman! Even after all of this, she is thinking about manipulating me and using me. Sure, but first answer this. What does any fairy want the most? Many things rushed in the Fae Queen's mind, but only one thing was the answer. Even Morgan, with all her determination for control and ruling, couldn't deny this. The thing a fairy wants the most is to serve a world tree. Even Morgan was willing to do so currently, even if it meant she will be the one serving him, not the other way around. But Morgan scoffed at Cain. There is only one world tree. That is Yggdrasil. Cain, after hearing what Morgan said, showed a smirk, reminiscent of a certain American when he heard a British guy say bottle of water. "You will be astonished to know that as of now I have this thing." Saying so, Cain revealed the world tree seed. Seeing that Morgan's instinct as a fairy were raging to submit to Cain, but she was a queen too. She tried to move her hand in order to snatch it from Cain, her instinct making her stupid. But just then she felt death. From all sides, pure death. She started shivering, sweating from all over her body, nausea hit her like a brick and she was trembling non-stop. Seeing that she would most likely faint and get PTSD from his killing intent, Cain stopped his it and allowed Morgan to breathe as she had forgotten to do so. "I think your rational mind is back on track, so let's talk again." Why yes, let's continue." Morgan was still stuttering and recovering from the full brunt of Cain's killing intent. She was sure of one thing, she can't control him like this. She needs to find another way, but first, the most important thing. "So you are plan on creating a new pantheon, I presume, and you need me to look after the world tree?" "Indeed, I do. The more detailed plan will be revealed when everything is ready. So any conditions you want to put or nothing else?" Sheesh. She is back to her queen persona and planning to negotiate, truly living up to her name. "I do not have any wish, but what about my utopia? Do not worry, I will teleport this inside the newly made hell, so you can still keep your fairies. I am grateful for that." After some other minor talks, the plan was finalized. Cain took out his bishop and laid Morgan on the table. He kept the piece on her chest and started chanting, "I, Cain Levon Lucifer, hereby order you. Heed me, Morgan Le Fay, your soul belongs to me from this moment. You shall become my bishop and rejoice in your newfound role in life." With that, Cain had got the Queen of Fairies in his peerage. With this, the formation of hell comes more closer than ever. Morgan then went with Cain to the underworld. In the way back she asked, "Can I call you husband?" Cain raised an eyebrow at that and said, "Get permission from my wife, Ziera. Then maybe. Till then let's stick with something simple. What about master or lord?" Morgan tried to keep a smile at that but failed. After all, Cain was insinuating that she can't control him, but he can. But still she agreed, and they entered inside the castle of the Lucifer. And just as they entered inside, they found an interesting scene in front of them. Ereshkigal was sitting beside Lilith, who was whispering something in her ears, and every time Ereshkigal was blushing harder. Skaithik was at the side seeing it and shaking her side from side to side as to signal Ereshkigal to get away from Lilith or she will fall into a pit. Seeing so many legendary figures in front of her, Morgan was shocked, especially seeing the Lord of Spirits, Skaithik Skadi, in front of her. "You never said that your queen was the Godslayer. You never asked." She looked at Cain with scrunched up eyes but went back to normal soon after. Grafia came from the stairs and announced that dinner was about to be served. She was also the first one to notice Cain and Morgan. "Welcome back, my lord. Will you like to eat too?" "Yes, I would, and also make a seat for our newest member." "As you wish, my lord." Hearing that, the other three looked at them. Ereshkigal looked at Cain, then at Skaithik, and then at Lilith. and after that she blushed hard. Cain found it amusing but left this for a later time. On the dinner table, some of the most famous people were sitting. Cain sat at the top with Ziera and Rayla at his either sides. On Ziera's side, Lilith and Skathek, and on Rayla's side sat Ereshkigal and Morgan. Grafia was standing behind Cain on his left side while Melissa and Vanessa were standing on his right. Morgan sitting in front of Skathek was nervous but didn't show it. She was a queen as she must maintain her queen persona, but it was failing spectacularly because of Lilith's empathy. Cain lifted up his glass and hit it with his spoon, drawing everyone's attention. I would like to introduce the new member of my peerage, the Fae Queen, Morgan Ellie Fae, as my bishop. She will also be the caretaker of the World Tree. Please be kind to her. Cain said that as he knew that not everyone will accommodate her in the clan immediately. Some will work fast while some slow. And then the main question started, how to deal with Olympus. Chapter 55, Olympus. Third-person POV. So what are your plans regarding dealing with Hades? Ziera asked, and everyone looked at Cain. Dealing with Hades? He wouldn't agree no matter what I offer. I will deal directly with Olympus. Rayla added, you are going to talk with Zeus. No, the entirety of the 12 gods of Olympus. I can convince Zeus, Poseidon, and Athena pretty easily. And others will be neutral or supporting. Lilith made an understanding face and replied, I see, even if Hades disagrees, he can't do anything as it will seen as an affront to Zeus's authority as the god king. Exactly. And I also have the name of Skathek on my side. Hearing that, all of them looked at Skathek, who simply continued eating without much discomfort. But she was deeply listening to Cain and understanding his plan. Ereshkigal said, yeah, her name is a big deterrent. Then my lord, shall I tell the other Satans about this? Indeed, Grafia, tell Adjuka to be ready on going for a tour of the underworld. Also tell Sirafal to create a ruckus so that every pantheon is busy. At this point, Morgan finally intervened. Distract every pantheon? Isn't that like very hard to do? Indeed it is, so tell Sirafal my plan. What is the plan? Skathek chimed in the discussion finally. She was interested in the plan. Cain had to distract multiple pantheons at once. For Shinto, just send some devils who are impending for death row in Kyoto and Tokyo. That would be enough, just leave them near a shrine. For the Chinese, I think there are more than enough fights, but just to be sure, make the young master of the Yellow Dragon sect attack or heavily injure the son of the sect master of the Azure Dragon sect. Norse is already distracted. The Hindu pantheon doesn't meddle with the outside much. Get some sacred gear users and throw them into Grigori territory in the human world, and lastly, make a satanic ritual take place in Europe for the church and heaven, just make sure it takes enough sacrifices. It was a simple but effective plan. Ziera asked, what about Falbium? Tell to him make sure there are no devils outside the boundary of the devil's ground. No soldiers either. And make sure to tell him to do a damn well job at that. Also, tell him to off anyone who tries to go outside in the current time period. Grafia nodded and Cain again spoke. Also Ziera, inform the devil pillars and lords of extra houses about the upcoming event. Do not tell them anything about the world tree or the negotiations with the Greek pantheon. Just tell them we are becoming independent. Sure, I will inform them about this and tell them that the details will be provided in the next Ars Goetia, in which you will be present. As for the common devils, I think telling them after everything has settled will be for the best. Indeed. With that, the dinner of the Lucifer clan finished and Cain was ready to depart for Mount Olympus the next week. He had Grafia send a letter to ask for audience with the 12 Greek gods. He also briefly mentioned in the letter about him having a beneficial deal for them. Cain was sitting in his garden, sipping tea, when a glowing man suddenly appeared in front of him. But Cain was not surprised, as his eyes were able to follow him with ease. Not bad for a devil to be able to see my movements. Well, I am also kind of fast, Hermes. Hermes had come here to take him to Olympus. Cain could have gone there if he wished by teleporting to Nyx, but he did not want them to know about his relationship with her, just yet. That may harm his plan, after though, it doesn't matter. Cain stood up and went near Hermes, and then he was engulfed with light and then vanished along with him. When Cain came out of the white portal, he was in a completely different place. Halls large enough to fit entire towers. Celestial bronze decorations like they are common, and 12 giants sitting on all of his sides. Cain knew he has came to where he wanted to, empty Olympus. Time to get serious. Time to scam some gods. The first thing Cain did was to see if all the gods were present. Zeus, Poseidon, Hermes, Hera, Hephaestus, Athena, Ares, Apollo, Aphrodite, Demeter, Artemis, Hestia, and of course he can't forget the extra one present here, Hades. Hades was here when he heard that the new Lucifer is coming to Olympus for a deal. And so far, if the things he knew through his grim reapers were true, then he will truly fuck him over. Zeus, in his authoritative tone, with a hint of lust directed at Cain, spoke. Lucifer, you said you had a deal for Olympus. State it. Thundering occurred outside the hall, and divine presence filled the hall, forcing upon everyone. Zeus, as his true nature, wants to have a go with Cain. But Cain, undeterred by that, responded by letting his presence out, and spoke. I will keep it simple. I want all of the lands currently occupied by the devils to be permanently mine. This horn dog really wants to play sword fight with me. Seriously, that bad upbringing by Cronus. Hearing that, everyone was shocked, but before Hades could speak, Athena talked, her voice filled with calmness and wisdom. Devil, don't you feel anything? As Zeus had used his authority as the god king to pressure him, but he is standing just fine. Oh, I felt like someone was massaging me, but I guess that's a godly thing here, right? Zu was scared hearing that, but then Hades spoke with anger. You want what? Forget it, Lucifer, you will not get a single rock from my domain. Cain looked at the old bag of bones dressed as a high priest with a large golden skull-like wand in his hand, his eye socket glowing blue with fury. I am talking to the entirety of Olympus, Hades. Not to you, so come down, or are you above the god king of your pantheon? Hearing that, Zeus coughed and spoke up with his godly presence once again acting up. Indeed, Hades first let him complete his deal. We only heard the part of his want in the deal. Majority of the gods agreed, and Hades had to shut up. Oh, how he wanted to tell that this Lucifer is bad news, but he can't, as that will show his weaknesses. Hades is a god who hates every race, except gods that belonged to Olympus. Hence he can't be scared of a devil. That too, Cain was young by supernatural standards. Cain continued with his deal. Yes, so I want the entirety of lands that devils have occupied in place of that I am offering to relieve Olympus from its current greatest problems. Hearing that, the wisest of them spoke. Problems? Which one? The biggest are the spawns of our great gods popping of left and right. Athena. She is right, Zeus. My marriage divinity is the only thing saving our marriage. Cain coughed and said. I don't think I can handle either Zeus or Poseidon, but I can deal with Echidna and Medusa. 3 heads snapped in his direction, sensing that Cain was thrilled. 3 in the bag. Poseidon looked at Athena, while Hera looked at Demeter. Oh, bonus. Hera spoke, as she was not on good terms with Echidna. How will you do that? The same question was in the minds of Poseidon and Athena. Demeter just didn't like Echidna, so didn't care about the method, she just wanted her gone. As for Athena, she cursed Medusa, and Poseidon always wanted her gone due to his history with the former priestess of Athena. My job is to take care of them as to not trouble Olympus and take them out. Leave the process and method to me, care for the results. But just for that, aren't you asking a lot? Zeus spoke this time, not thinking with his lower body but his mind. Oh, I still have one more left. I will also deal with Nyx. That one line silenced the entirety of the hall. Nobody was calm after hearing him say that, but 2 gods were especially ecstatic hearing that, even if they didn't show it outwardly. Those 2 being Zeus, as he was scared of her, and Apollo, which was obviously due to her divinity countering his. Cain had managed to gain the votes of half of the gods, now only one of them remained for his success. And he knew it was going to be either Ares or Aphrodite. But Hades couldn't take it anymore and shouted, using his divinity to axe Cain. You filthy bat, you dare covet my domain. But Cain was prepared. He released all of his aura, destroying the death god's attacks and forcing him back at the same time. But the effect of that was enormous. Cain, having mastered his superdevil form, was stronger than Satan-class devils, so unless Hades went all out, there was no way Cain would lose to him in a confrontation of aura. The goddess, which was the most bored here, immediately got interested. Aphrodite wetted her divine undies when she felt the raw power of Cain, even surpassing that of Typhoon and Hades. And everyone ignored that for their own mental health. I must invite him to my chambers, now. Cain, knowing the effect he had on her, looked at her and signaled her to vote for his deal. The love goddess agreed immediately for a single night of passion. Alas, she didn't know that Cain had no plans to follow his promise. After all, a devil rarely makes good of his promises. But Zeus was scared, because if he denied this deal, then even Hades wouldn't be able to save him, as he saw his older brother being inferior to Cain. So in order to appease the Lucifer, he restricted Hades' authority. Looks like the Underworld is independent of Olympus. Cain said. There is no such thing like that. Poseidon spoke up this time. Oh, it isn't? I thought I needed to call Scathach here in case I was attacked. Ares smiled fearfully at that, and Artemis looked at shock on his statement. She idolized the Godslayer, and Cain just spoke like she served him. I am gonna kill him. First he takes away the source of hunts and then disrespects my idol. But she knew she couldn't, so suppressed her desire and waited. A hunter know when to hunt and when to stop. Athena, hearing that, chimed in. We need to discuss it, so why don't you go and see Olympus while we decide on whether to accept or not? Cain said, fair enough, then see you gods in a while. But just then Hades asked, why do you want that land? I am not troubling you. Cain looked at Hades and said. That is none of your concern. I didn't ask why you guys want these being out of your pantheon, so you don't ask my reasons. Also, your hate is very well known, Hades, don't even try. And I am making the deal with Olympus itself, not the Underworld, so let Zeus and the council decide, or is the Underworld and you above the gods of Olympus, I wonder? Zeus and the others looked at Hades with shock. With this he had no choice but to back up. But again, Cain was hell-bent on creating a rift between him and Olympus, so he spoke further. Or is it rebellion that you want to start? With those statements, Cain went out of the hall. Just as Cain went out, all chaos was let loose inside the hall. I say we accept, the Underworld is too big anyways. Spoke Athena, totally not due to Cain dealing with Medusa. We agree. Chanted Hera, Demeter, Aphrodite, Poseidon, and Apollo. Totally not due to their own agendas. But everyone knew, it was to maintain the agenda. But everyone knew why Aphrodite agreed. Hestia was neutral. But Hermes and Artemis disagreed. A man like him doesn't deserve our help. Spoke Artemis, due to her man-hate, while Hermes was of different vision. He can keep up with me, even when he is not a god. I say we kill him by tricking him, lest he becomes a threat in the future. Everyone ignored these two, as their votes are not going to change. In the middle of these, Hephaestus spoke. I disagree. I will lose material from monsters if he takes Echidna. I agree, he is a warrior. If he had a woman like the Godslayer to help him, I want to have a spar with him. Zeus looked towards Hades and was terrified. His brother looked like he was about to kill everyone present who was agreeing. But he was even more terrified of Nyx. But he still asked, "Gods of Olympus, raise your votes if we agree or not to the proposal of the Lucifer." Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Athena, Apollo, Demeter, Ares, and Aphrodite raised their votes in support of Cain, while Artemis, Hermes, Hephaestus, and Hades were in disagreement with supporting Cain. And Hestia was natural on the deal proposed by Cain. Zeus spoke up with that it has been decided that Olympus will accept the deal given by Cain. Live on, Lucifer. Hermes, go and call him. While Hermes went to find Cain, Hades spoke up. You guys are still ever the fools I see. You didn't even ask him why he wants that land, just seeing your immediate gain, not the future. Pathetic. Zeus and the others ignored him, while Zeus decided to keep a close eye at his brother and Tartarus. With that, Hades went back to his abode to prepare for the completion of the deal. He also can't act up in the near future in case the rest of Olympus blames him for the breaking of the deal. Thus Hades went to plan and scheme against Cain in the long term. Just after Hermes came with Cain, obviously not in a good mood but still followed Zeus's order. We have decided to accept your deal. So let's make a pact. We will wager the Mount Olympus while your soul. Sure. With that, Cain had managed to get around Hades and get the last thing required to make hell into a reality. I will go and handle Echidna and Medusa firsthand and at the last Nyx. Very well, as you please. With that, the council was dismissed and Cain went out to get the two monster girls. Chapter 56, Medusa and Echidna. Third-person POV. Cain was on his way towards the monster girl duo. Surprisingly, the two were living very closely to each other in caves next to each other. Isn't Echidna supposed to be Typhoon's wife, and she lives in a cave? Greek and their weird tendencies. And it was a mystery to Cain why Medusa was still alive. Because he remembers that Perseus was supposed to kill her. Cain lamented the Greeks, to be able to fail on killing a mortal Gorgon. He landed in front of the cave, which have of the aura of a snake. The other has an aura of many types of monsters. Just as Cain stepped his foot inside the cave, a powerful wave of aura mixed with divinity tried to thrust him back, but he simply scoffed at it and moved forward. A warning sounded, reminiscent of a snake. Intruder, do not come inside, you will forfeit your life doing so. Cain nodded his head in a disappointing manner and said, if that was your attempt to scare me, please do better. You are supposed to be a legendary monster appearing in the myths. Cain entered the depths of the cave and came in front of a monster. No, it would be apt to call it an existence closer to the queen of magical beasts. Purple hairs with snakes in it, a blindfold in her eyes, golden scales on her legs and hands. Counting only her human body parts, she is smaller than Cain, only coming to 172 cm. Image. But taking her monster parts into consideration, that figure runs into the meters. Cain looked at her clothing and raised his eyes. Her scanty clothing didn't leave much to imagination, but somehow it looked more erotic than being completely naked. Gorgon was standing at the side, looking at Cain warily. Her snakes were also looking at him. Seeing that, Cain laughed lightly, said to reduce her wariness, "Don't be that scared. I am not here to hurt you." That didn't deter Gorgon. She, being still wary, asked, "Then why are you here? State your intentions." Cain sighed, seeing that she wasn't going to relax till she really trusts him. "I made a deal with the gods of Olympus." Just as Cain spoke that, he found himself launched into one of the walls of the cave. He steadfastly put his legs on the wall and jumped back to where he was, only to find an angry-looking snake queen, ready to kill him. Now that I think about that, it really wasn't a good conversation starter. Gorgon launched herself at Cain, but just as Cain looked at her, she stopped and jumped back. She had seen her death in that moment. Gorgon, knowing that she can't be careless, she removed her blindfold and looked at Cain with all the power and intensity she could muster. The famed eyes of Medusa, the Gorgon met with Cain's. Contrary to the famous ability of them to paralyze and petrifying people, their true strength was something else. The ability to seal all magical properties. Cain felt his power go, but he could also feel that he could easily break free from this attack, but he didn't think he would need them to fight her. Seeing his magical properties sealed, Gorgon rushed at him to finish him off. She slashed using her claws. She was expecting to easily cleave him off, but instead she felt her claws stop midway. Cain moved her large hands from in front of his face and said, "Now we are going to have a talk, in a civil manner. No more attacks." And then he chucked the meters-long Gorgon into the cave wall and embedded her inside it. He then sat at the rocks and waited for her to come to her senses. Gorgon, now knowing that she can't do anything to the intruder, came and sat down in front of him. She tried to act like her usual self, but monsters and magical beasts have a tendency to be submissive to stronger beings, unless they hate them to the core. So she was also kind of listening to Cain, but it was nowhere enough for her to trust him. But still Cain continued with his talk. "So yeah, I made a deal with the gods of Olympus that I need to make sure that you don't cause trouble for them, in other words, to take you out." Gorgon hissed and said, "So you are here to kill me? Calm down, I only need to make sure that you don't cause trouble for them. Killing isn't the only way." Gorgon looked at him for more explanation, and Cain again explained to her the same thing he explained to Morgan, except the politics and power play part. "So you are asking me to serve you? I barely know you and yet you are asking such of me." "Yes, to be honest. And I know you don't like staying here, but you have to do so to protect yourself. After all, a Gorgon is very exotic. Surveying without being the part of a pantheon is nigh impossible. Medusa was silent hearing that. Cain had hit the bullseye with that statement. Due to her beef with Poseidon and Athena, she wasn't safe here either. You are correct, but I will be fine. Mother is here to protect me. She did so when Perseus was about to kill me. Mother? I thought yours was dead. Echidna. What? I know she is called the mother of all monsters, but she isn't your mother. And what do you mean she saved you from Perseus? Medusa then told him how Echidna saved her from Perseus. Cain was shocked knowing about the motherly love of Echidna. Well, that's all well and good, but what if Typhoon or Hades comes to attack? Then even Echidna will fail, and before you say that Echidna is Typhoon's wife, their relationship is not good. Medusa was in a serious dilemma here. What Cain said couldn't be ignored. So she looked at Cain and asked, if I follow you, can you fulfill my one request? Yes. I want to kill Poseidon. Cain knew that wish of hers and said, I can't say that I will kill him now, but I can swear on my name as a Lucifer, that in the future one day, when Olympus and Hell are fighting, Poseidon's head will be yours. Medusa hearing that said, very well, then till that day comes I will hold on to your words, master. With that Cain took her out from the cave and went to visit Echidna, to get her on board with their team. Medusa was sure that she will happily comply, but alas, it was not easy as it seems. Echidna, the mother of all monsters, stood in front of them with anger. Her first response was releasing an attack at Cain. Cain easily deflected the attack but was surprised at why Echidna was angry at him. He signaled Medusa to talk to her adoptive mother. Mother, he is here to take me. Cain looked at Echidna's reaction and then at Medusa's face and said, again, that could have been phrased better. Echidna roared, you devil want to take my daughter away from me. She started transforming into her true form, but she only transformed in an imitation of it. Seeing that both Medusa and Echidna herself were shocked, image. But Cain looked normal. Looks like Zeus cut off the authority of Echidna from Olympus. Well, this makes things easier for me. Gorgon, deal with quickly or I will. And it will not be nice. Medusa looked at Cain like a slave would look at a slave driver and ran towards the mother of all monster, or more correctly former mother of all monsters. In the middle of it, Medusa also transformed into her true snake deity form. As only in this way she could match Echidna, even then only if she was weakened. Image. The fight had just begun but the area was already half destroyed. Both of their forms were incredibly large and cause immense amounts of collateral damage. Medusa also got too much into her instincts and forgot about the main reason she was fighting. Her snakes were latching onto Echidna's monstrous body while Echidna, while only a little more than half of Gorgon's size, was still stronger. The mystic eyes were limiting her magic, yet only her physical strength was almost matching a deity of snakes. Seeing that if the fight continued the damage to the area will be too great, Cain decided to step up and end this. As if he let the two monster fight, the Greek gods will ask him compensation if the damage caused by these two, as technically he is their owner now. A man can't have a peaceful moment when around multiple women, and NYX is still left. Let's do this. Motivating himself, Cain flew above both the monster woman and released his demonic pressure. Sensing that both Gorgon and Echidna were shocked and stopped their fight to look at him, Medusa quickly calmed down. The fear induced in her instincts from the last time was enough to free her from her primal instincts. Echidna also was smart enough to know that if Cain wanted to do something she was powerless to resist. This made her calm down as well, but she didn't trust him just yet. Seeing that Cain also reseated his aura and came down, he signaled Medusa to tell Echidna everything. While the adoptive mother and daughter were talking, Cain was observing Echidna, or more specifically her body. It was mind-blowing. Image. Damn, the dress tempts me too much. Surely I can expect mommy play in the future. Medusa told Echidna everything that happened and most importantly explained that Cain isn't a bad person, but is here to help them. Echidna still wasn't sure as Medusa has been tricked in the past, so she decided to ask Cain herself. Are you like the other children of mine, who always run away and hate me, or are you like the gods who always lie and make my daughter suffer? Cain looked at Echidna and thought. She looks like a mother who had been through too much, and only wants to protect her child. I am not, and I will not harm either of you, I can promise that. If not, I can have you meet someone whom you can trust more. Who? My mother Lilith. I am sure she will understand your pain. Seeing Medusa nodding her head and waiting for her decision, Echidna agreed and said, I am willing to go with you, but without turning into a devil servant of yours. If you speak the truth, then you can use your evil pieces later on us. Sure. Cain agreed without any problem, and then with telling them to take anything they might want to take as a memento, he went to Zeus. Zeus, I have handled Medusa and Echidna. As for NYX, I am going now, so cut her off from Olympus, lest I fight her and destroy half of Olympus. I have already thought about it, Lucifer, and cut her off using my authority as the God King. I have divided her divinity between Artemis, left the rest to the primordials, under Hades. Whatever. With that, Cain went to meet NYX. NYX POV. I was once one of the strongest gods to ever roam the world, but then our creator and master, Chaos, suddenly disappeared and his power did too. All the primordial fell from grace and got weak, rebellion came and the rulers of Olympus changed. My Osiris was stripped of its position and empty Olympus became the new seat of power. I was one of the primordial who still were relatively strong, hence I secluded myself to conserve my strength. Zeus being the paranoid god, he stopped the flow of energy from Olympus to me, making my power go down with time. I knew I would die sooner or later, but I had hope. Hope in a devil, how ironic. A god having hope in a devil, but he showed me that not everything is as I know. Even a primordial sometimes learns new. Today when I was lying on my bed I felt the connection between me and Olympus cut off. Unlike the past where it was blocked, now it was completely removed. I knew that my time was here, my divinity was leaving me, and I was losing strength. My instincts told me I was about to perish, but my heart said otherwise. I knew he would come. And I wasn't wrong. Yo, still living. Third-person POV. Cain entered the realm of NYX only to find it almost nearing its end. He immediately connected to the source and fueled it using his own energy. The realm stabilized and Cain breathed a sigh of relief. He was briefly worried that NYX may have fell into slumber due to Zeus cutting the connection beforehand, but he was fast enough. One day I am going to cut that bastard's dick off. He entered the house and saw NYX lying on her bed, pale, weak and not so lively compared to the first time he saw her, but to cheer her up he said, "Yo, still living." NYX chuckled lightly at his humor and said in a meek and frail voice, "Yes." Now that he was running the realm, NYX can still be awake until he runs out of gas, but before that he will create hell, which was needed to be done fast, as he is also providing energy to Ereshkigal. He briefed NYX about his plans and went to bring the other two future members of his peerage. Cain brought Medusa and Echidna to NYX's divine realm. Echidna was shocked seeing NYX and Medusa was scared, but seeing her not like what she was thinking, Medusa calmed down. Then Cain notified Zeus that his part of the deal is done and then teleported the entire realm of NYX directly to the forest behind his castle. Teleportation across pantheons drained Cain much more than he anticipated, due to him carrying an entire realm with him, but he was still fine and then told NYX to wait and conserve her strength as it would be needed for something else later. He brought Medusa and Echidna with him. Just as he exited the realm he was greeted with the entire top-level fighting force of the devil faction. Ziera, Rayla, Graphia, Lilith, the Satans, Cain's peerage, all were alerted at the sudden presence of a divine realm in the Lucifer's backyard. But seeing him, Ajuka sighed and said, "Never in my life would I have thought that I would see a Lucifer teleporting an entire divine realm into the devil territory. I tend to do some weird stuff now and then," Cain said with a smirk on his face. Chapter 57, Hell. Third-person POV. After everyone was calm seeing Cain, all of them went inside his castle to discuss the upcoming things. In the hall, all the important persons sat down in the couch and looked at Cain, motioning him to start explaining on how to create hell. First of all, Falbium and Sira, I think you guys have finished what Graphia told you to. I have made sure no one is outside of the border. Falbium responded in an awake voice. The current situation was tense so he wasn't sleeping. I also finished my work. With that Cain looked at Ajuka and said, "Then me and Ajuka will go on a little inspection tour. Till then do the following things I have told Graphia." Saying that Cain teleported along with Ajuka. After the two Satans disappeared from the hall, Graphia without any delay stared barking out order like a sergeant. "Lord Falbium, Lady Scathatch, please clear the entirety of the monsters and beasts in the forest. Lady Morgan, please be prepared as you will need to handle the world tree when it is planted." "What do you mean be prepared? The world tree will take centuries to grow." Ziera then revealed something to her. "Cain has a way to make it grow quickly, so be ready. You might need to tend to a fully grown world tree from the start." Morgan hearing that got serious and went to prepare her mind. Graphia then sent Lilith to talk with Tiamat and Medusa, while Ziera was to clear a place in the backyard for creation of a new space. So Cain had told her to destroy the space in the backyard. "Why do we need to destroy the space?" Ereshkigal, silent for so long, finally asked something. This time Graphia responded. "Lord Cain said that a world tree for its quick growth needs a new and pure space. The current space is very old and not pure, thus the need to destroy it. The world tree will create its own space, suited to it." Then Graphia looked at Ereshkigal and Sirafal and said, "Lady Sirafal, please provide energy to Lady Ereshkigal, as Lord Cain needs his reserves full for the upcoming event. Also I will be handling the energy requirements for the divine realm outside, so please ask anything you want to know now." Nobody had any questions as everyone had already been briefed about this. Graphia and Lilith went to the divine realm while Sirafal and Ereshkigal stayed inside. Skathik and Falbium were killing the demonic beasts. Morgan was readying herself. Ziera was literally deleting space while Cain and Ajuka were mapping the boundary which they need to take into the newly created dimension. Cain had taken Ajuka because of his calculation prowess, and he himself was necessary just to check if Hades was not playing any tricks. While Cain and Ajuka were busy marking the boundaries, a very important discussion was going on inside the divine realm of NYX. This discussion was crucial in making Cain's peerage, and it was left in the hands of someone he trusted, his mother Lilith. Just as Lilith and Graphia along with Rayla, who didn't have any work to do, entered the divine realm of NYX, they were faced by two monster beauties. Just as Echidna and Lilith matched eyes, they formed a mutual understanding. After all, only a mother can feel another mother. Also it helped that both of them had very similar past, neglected and used by their husbands, bad children, and being saved by Cain. Thus only with this Echidna was convinced that Cain wasn't bad being from her point of view. For his enemies though, he was nothing sort of the devil, which he was both racially and metaphorically. Lilith went to talk with Echidna and Medusa, while Graphia went inside the house to meet with NYX. As a maid it was her duty to be acquainted with her lord's wives. And NYX was ranked very high up in Cain's harem, although the hierarchy was purely made up by Rayla and the other were dragged into it. And as much as Graphia doesn't show it, she is proud that she is the one to marry Cain first, even though it is not officially known to anyone except the harem members. Seeing her, Nyx said, "So, you are his Lucifuge. I guess you are maintaining my realm and me currently." "Indeed, Lady Nyx. I am Graphia Lucifuge, personal maid of Lord Cain. Your demonic signature suits Cain, his being monstrous and domineering, while yours frosty and submissive, only to him I might add. I work to please." The meeting between the two moms and Snake Queen went nicely, with Echidna even calling her sister. Although Lilith told her not to say that to Cain for unknown reasons. Sometime later everyone was done with their job and was waiting for the two Satans to come back so the main part can start, and they appeared, from a magic circle. "So everyone ready?" The voice of Cain was different from normal, stand ratings of excitement and anxiousness in it, and it was justified. After all, he was going to do something that not even his father, the creator of devils, was able to do, create a real hell. Seeing everyone confirm to him, he took out the world tree seed and told everyone to step away. The basic plan told by Cain was pretty simple to understand but hard to execute. Cain, Ziera, and Ajuka will feed the world tree just as it was planted, the entirety of their energy reserves in their superdevil form. Doing this will make it grow faster. Cain expected the tree to be equivalent to a 2,000-year-old world tree at the end. Just as they finished this, Morgan would teleport her pocket space around the space that will be created by the tree. This will make the tree connected to that space. After that, Nyx and Ereshkigal will take control of the dimensional core and connect it to the world tree. After that, Ereshkigal will create a separate pocket space in the newly created dimension, specially dedicated for storing, punishing, and reincarnating souls. Nyx will take control and make it such that the dimensional core will suck the extra energy from the dimension and give it to the world tree. The world tree will then purify and increase its amount. The new, better energy will be replace the old energy, while the extra will be used by the tree for its own growth, thus enabling it to grow as the dimension grows and its inhabitants do so too. While this was going on, Skathatch, Tiamat, and Medusa will be responsible for handling anyone who comes to interfere. A certain death god was sure to cause trouble. Falbium had included everyone inside his absolute defense for extra security. Seraphal and Graphia will be busy supporting the two goddesses. Rayla will be just there for moral support or not, she will be the one handling the devil pillars, if any come for answers due to the trouble. Lilith will be helping and providing Morgan support, as the Fey Queen's magic reserves were not enough to last the entire duration of the process. The formation of a new pantheon after such a long time was started by the transformation of 3 superdevil at once. The density of demonic energy at the place went from above average to the densest in the entire underworld. Everyone inside the absolute defense barrier felt the pressure. Skathatch, sensing that from outside, remarked, "So those two also have that form." The warrior inside her was trembling to challenge them, but her thoughts were interrupted by Medusa saying, "I doubt even you are capable of fighting any one of them, currently." "Indeed, but the future is uncertain, Gorgon. Call me Medusa, we serve the same master from now on." "Yes, Godslayer. I also am a part of the peerage of the child of Lilith named Cain." Skathatch looked weirdly at Echidna's way of speaking but ignored it. She was already sensing some Grim Reapers, but they appear to be scouts instead of attackers. Cain had told her to only to kill them when they attacked first, so she let them be, or killing them was way too easy for her. Sending the other two was only a precaution in case Hades appeared himself with Pluto and Thanatos. The 3 superdevils poured the entirety of their powers in the rainbow-colored glowing seed. The seed slowly started germinating. First the roots came out and they went inside the space instead of ground. They binded the space around it, compressing it and making it more stable. Cain, seeing that, said, "Morgan, just when I say summon your pocket space." The tree gradually increased its roots and started covering more and more space, and slowly its shoot also started growing. "Morgan, now." With that, Morgan did her job and the tree, just as predicted, started compressing the pocket space, but wasn't grown enough to do so at a larger scale. Thus, it merged with it, the pocket space becoming a part of the tree. Without anyone knowing, Cain summoned his scythe inside the trunk of the world tree, which was hollow and not filled yet. He did this in order to create a spirit for the dimension. It will take 1 or 2 centuries to grow, but when it does it will be worth it. But till then he needed to refrain from using his scythe frequently. He can still use it if he required, it's just that the process will be delayed depending on much he uses it. The world tree gradually grew, and it was becoming massive. When the 3 superdevils felt their reserves becoming half, Cain signaled to Nyx and Ereshkigal to start the connection between the world tree and the dimensional core. Both the goddesses, not in their best state but still gave it their all. Both of them were used to using the dimensional core. Nyx due to her age and her divine realm, while Ereshkigal as she used it after the Mesopotamian pantheon collapsed and only she survived. The world tree just growing was not able to avoid the masterful use of dimensional core by the 2 goddesses and was connected with it. Just then Cain increased his output and said, "Ajuka, connect to the dimensional core and create the dimension." The Beelzebub did as he heard and directed the formation of the dimension, but just as he started it, some unpleasant things were going on outside the boundary. Skathatch was standing on top of a small mountain of Grim Reapers, all dead of piercing wounds from her spear, while Tiamat and Medusa were also surrounded by some dead Grim Reapers. Skathatch decided against letting these scouts go back and report the formation of a dimension to Hades. It is better to kill them, as it will delay the response of the death god. This was the reason Cain chose her as the queen. She is capable of making decisions when he is not around quickly. A vital skill for a queen, due to being second in command. This act of scathatch managed to earn a significant amount of time for the process to be successful. In the meantime, the world tree had grown up to a humongous size. The only reason the devil pillars were unable to see and not question its appearance were due to it being inside a different pocket space. The process was almost finished. Just as Ajuka finalized the coordinates and came back to providing energy, the entire Devil Society was feeling the tremors form the dimensional change. Zekram, Ziticus, Lord Agars, and Lord Satrai immediately teleported to the Lucifer castle, to know if the Satans knew about this. But they only found Rayla there waiting for them. Zekram immediately questioned. May I ask what is happening to the Devil Society? Lady Lucifer ne Fennex. I think Ziera had informed you of this, Lord Bale. But just to pacify you I will tell you that currently, we are becoming independent and this is just the precursor to the formation of hell. The lords went on to ask some more questions but Rayla managed to answer them all, while still keeping the important information safe. Finally after some time the dimension stabilized, Hades felt his authority weakening. He was prepared for this, but was still shocked as he could not sense anything from the part of the underworld where the devils lived. He contacted the Grim Reapers stationed there but found them all dead. And just after that he felt the presence of another dimension very close to the underworld but gradually going far. He cursed out loud. Damn you foolish gods of Olympus! Damn you spawn of Lucifer! That day the entirety of Olympus trembled from the anger of Hades, but alas there was nothing he could do now. Attacking the devils will lead to a divine war. On the other hand the newly formed dimension slowly drifted in the dimensional gap going towards the destination fixed by Ajuka, that was known only to himself and Cain. In that time, Morgan was busy handling the world tree, even being supported by an expert and experienced magic user like Lilith, defining the rules and conditions of the dimension and pantheon was tough. Not to mention the world tree suddenly growing from a seed to such huge tree was not able to control its powers correctly. But somehow they managed to do so. In the dimensional gap the place was found by Cain and Ajuka after searching in the dimensional gap very much. And they had put a lot of high-level barriers even to keep even God-King level beings from approaching it. After a few hours the dimension reached the place and stopped. Just about the same time Ereshkigal finished creating a miniature core inside of Hell and embedded the divine realm of Nyx in the dimension of Hell. And soon after that Falbium lowered his absolute defense, and the 3 members of Cain's peerage came inside. They had jumped inside the dimension when it was forming its barrier. And just after that Ajuka and Ziera ran out of energy and reverted back to their normal forms and fell. But Ajuka was supported by Falbium while Cain caught Ziera. Cain being used to his super devil form didn't fall. And then looking at everyone said, to everyone present in this dimension. His voice echoed in the newly formed dimension, courtesy of Nyx. We have created history, we have created hell. Chapter 58, Domains and Territories. Third-person POV. Everyone was tired from the creation of hell. But rest was not an option. Very soon the various pantheons will act, trying to get any kind of information about the newly formed pantheon. Not to mention that the Greeks would be royally pissed. They thought that they were making a good deal, but instead they helped, although indirectly, in the formation of a new pantheon. More are the pantheons, less the chance of stronger gods being born. And in the case a god with the same divinity is there in the new pantheon, his divinity will cause the other gods of the same divinity to lose some power. After all the dimensional gap can only handle so many pantheons and gods. This is the reason that gods with very less competition are stronger. Shiva has no major competition as there are no strong gods of destruction, while someone like Apollo is weak as there are many gods of sun. Currently the Satans and the Lucifer clan were again sitting in the hall of the Lucifer castle. But this time everyone was relaxed. But they were here because Cain had asked them to wait. Cain began to explain the reason he made everyone wait. So now I will explain one of the greatest benefits of having a separate dimension, world tree, and a pantheon. I know many of you thought that we are strong enough to beat Olympus easily or put up a fight against any other pantheon. But no, that is not the truth. Even against Olympus we would have won but at a tremendous cost. Sirafal commented. Why? I don't think that you would lose to Hades or Typhoon. I wouldn't, but that is when the advantage of a pantheon and dimension come in. First of all, what are territories and domains? Nyx, Ereshkigal, Lilith, Morgan, and Scathatch nodded their heads showing their knowledge, while Echidna said that she knows a little bit about this topic. Cain seeing that began to explain. Domains are the manifestation of one's personal power. It is a symbol that their power has reached a high enough level that they can be called truly strong. A domain is a personal space that is under the complete control of the owner, boosts the strength and gives various effects depending upon the nature of the domain. Those who can create a domain are almost considered invincible inside it. Unless their opponent has a domain or a way to counter it, they are guaranteed to win. So, my super devil form is a domain in itself. Ajuka said and Cain replied. No, from what I have seen your domain automatically activates when you transform. You need to consciously stop it when not fighting, it's a rare case. Currently only you possess a domain in the devils. Technically Falbium's absolute defense also falls in that category but it is not strong enough. But domains aren't the reason why gods are so strong and their pantheons are so valuable. It's due to territories. Wait a second, you are saying that Ajuka has a domain but you don't. Cain nodded his head at Falbium's question and continued his explanation. Domains are very hard to get, that is why Ajuka is a rare case. For me and Ziera to gain a domain it will take decades of training. And territories, they are the pantheon itself manifesting at a different place. Normally when a god comes down to earth or any other place, he loses a bit of his strength, but when he is in his territory he gets a boost. But to summon a territory, all the leaders of the pantheon must agree. It's been more than 7 centuries since a territory has been manifested in the human world. Most beings who were present here were shocked as they didn't know that territories were so dangerous. Hence, if Zeus along with his brothers summoned Olympus, then even I would be a little drained and suppressed when fighting typhoons and Hades at once. Although Cain said so, his way of speaking was light. Scathatch and Lilith scoffed as he basically said, even 2 top 10 beings with territory boost will not be able to defeat him. Cain explained the more definite basis of domains and territories to the others and told them to attain a domain as fast as they can. Also the name of our world tree is Qliphoth. With that everyone went to rest as they had been very tired. But still many important things were left. Nyx and Ereshkigal, although they regained their powers a little bit, were not completely fine. Currently Cain needed to convince the angels to allow him to take the evil souls from the biblical pantheon's worshippers. Not to mention that he needs to form connections to other pantheons, as hell is relatively new and needs time to become strong. Peace is very important now for the devils. And in a few days the common devils need to be informed about this and the lords tomorrow. Cain had decided to let the matter of telling the information to the devil's pillars and common devils rest on his wife's shoulders. He had to deal with much more pressing matters. Some weeks later. Currently Cain was laying on his bed with a body beside him, covered in the silk sheets. At first to anyone this was normal. He was contemplating his life very seriously at this moment. But then the gate opened and his wife's and personal maid walked in. Cain squinted his eyes and saw 2 different colored strands of hairs peeking from the gate, one brown and one black. Ziera, Rayla, and Graphia were looking at him with very questioning eyes, and then Graphia removed the sheets and Cain's dilemma was brought to light. A small body, with maroon hair was lying beside him. He was looking at the ceiling and thinking about last night, because he most certainly didn't remember going to sleep with his mother. My lord, although I may be steeping my authority as a maid, may I ask that you just banged your mom? Rayla looked shocked at the words uttered by the maid, but Cain knew that his little maid can be very sharp with her words when required. Not to mention Ziera spoke up too. Is this your attempt to keep the bloodline pure? This was a joke he frequently used to tell her when discussing the similarities between the human nobles and some devil pillars. It came to bite his ass back. Now how do I explain this? Cain started his tale of how he ended up purifying his bloodline with a sigh. As you know, most of the time alcohol doesn't affect me, but yesterday mom brought some real old wine. She said it was from a millennial ago. I drank it and after then it was kind of blank, but she talked about her time with my father and then I tried to console her, and it ended up being this stuff. Not to mention her charm was going haywire last night as she was drunk and not in control of it, so it might not be my fault entirely. All this explanation was for only one person, that is Graphia. Cain knew that Ziera was only angry now. She can always agree for the family. He was pretty sure he can sleep with Venelana and she will be fine, encouraging even. Zidicus really was wasting her potential. Rayla, although shocked, was used to it. Not to mention her grandfather married his own twin. Sometimes Cain was astounded by how nobles work. The audacity of him to say this would also astounding, in Ziera's mind. Hence he only thought and not said this. But Graphia was comparatively tame as compared to the other two. Ziera had a weird obsession with her family, while Rayla was just used to shit like this happening. But the poor maid didn't have the obsession nor the experience, only her loyalty to her master. Cain was sure that if he glared at her and flared his aura, she would accept it without any question, but he didn't want to do this until truly required. Just at that moment, the culprit woke up and looked at 3 women and said, "Good morning, my daughters." At this Rayla commented, "It would be better if you said, sisters." Hearing that, Lilith looked a little bit confused but then turned around to find herself face to face with her son. Her eyes went a little lower to see the body even better than a Greek god. And then the memories of last night came in. She didn't blush or do anything a virgin would but still felt the impact this would have on her son's wives. She turned around, used magic to conjure some clothes, still in her human form, and bowed and said, "I apologize for it dash." But before she could speak it, Ziera caught her shoulder and said, "There is no need to apologize, mother. I just wanted to check if you were aware of what you had done. As for this, I was sure this would happen sooner or later. I had just hoped that you would inform me before jumping at Cain." Graphia and Lilith were shocked hearing what Ziera said. But Lilith felt relieved and hugged her daughter before turning towards Rayla. But her words were even more weird. "Do tell me some tricks in bed later on, mother." The last word was uttered in a snicker by Rayla. This left Graphia the only one who was out of the loop. Cain was calm, still in bed trying to get more sleep. His mother truly lived up to her name as the queen of succubuses. But then Lilith turned toward the silver-haired maid hoping that she would be the same as the other two, but no, Graphia was not. At that moment Cain stood up and clapped his hands. "Ziera, Rayla, let's go outside." And with that he left the 2 ladies to talk to themselves. But he stood just in front of the door, while telling his other 2 wives that he would handle it. The other 2 maids had ran away not to get involved. Graphia was the one to break the silence and said, "Lady Lilith, are you projecting your husband on Lord Cain, or is your reason something different?" "No, I would never. My son is way different from his father. I truly love him. But Grafia didn't budge and asked. Lord Cain sometimes tells me the writings in the book of Lucifer. He told me that his father was a good husband at the start. How can I be sure that you aren't simply using Lord Cain for that? I don't why you are asking it, but no. I loved Cain as my child and now I love him as a lover. You may see it for yourself. The fire in the eyes of Lilith managed to convince Grafia. But she still said, I am not comfortable with the relationship between you two, but as my lord isn't averse to it I will not say more. But please remember Lady Lilith that if you hurt Cain, even if he hates me I will kill you. Saying Grafia went outside the room, she found Cain leaning on the wall with his eyes closed. Did I overstep my authority? No, what you did was fine. Just don't hate her for this. Lilith was shocked at many things. Grafia had called her son by name and insinuated that she could hurt her son. She was angry but at the same time happy that her son had people caring for him. She vowed that she will make that girl understand that she too is devoted to her son, like she is to her master. Seeing that his mother was fine, Cain went to have a bath and go on about his work. A day later, the Devil's Pillars had been informed about the hell stuff and so had been the common devils. Today Cain was planning to visit the Norse pantheon to befriend them. As always Sierra was asking about how he was going to do that. Cain had sent a letter to Odin and asked for him to take the trial for Valhalla. It's very easy Sierra, I just need to punch Thor hard enough, make double meaning jokes with Odin, and win the trial. Very easy. Sierra sighed at her husband's way of thinking. She was surprised that he hasn't started a divine war by now due the way he thinks befriending works. But still he always succeeded, so she simply kissed him on his lips and sent him on his way to victory. Chapter 59, Valhalla, third-person POV. As Cain was on his way to the Norse pantheon, his mind wandered to the night with his mother. He hadn't told everything to his wives as some other topics were also spoken in the drunkenness by him. He didn't get drunk, but the wine his mom had some good stuff. Not to mention her charm. He hadn't banged his mother, they had just slept together, although none of them were clothed, nothing had happened. But when his wives saw him like that, they just assumed he banged Lilith. He told that to his wives to ease them into the idea that he may really fuck his mother. Both him and his mother knew that. Flashback no jutsu. Cain and Lilith were in his room. He always talked to his mom over wine whenever he was free. Today was one such day. Lilith had brought out the special wine, she called it the devil's shots. Cain didn't think it would affect him much, but the first cup told him that he was wrong. Fearing that he might do something when drunk he refused to drink it. Era, is the king of hell afraid to drink some old wine? Cain was not to fall for such a simple provocatio, but he was weak to his mom, not to mention her charm that she was releasing. He also loved the human form of his mom. The succubus form made his primal urges rise, while the devil form made him feel a euphoric rush to show his dominance. But the human form, he only had a feeling of motherly love for it. It may be due to the fact he saw her first in the form first when he was born, and his mind unconsciously imprinted that form as mother. Thus he said, only if you agree to stay in this form all night. Lilith agreed and they started drinking. At first both were silent, but as the level of wine decreased in the bottle, the silence also broke. You know Cain, I wanted to raise your brother and you both. I wanted to see your life, and perhaps if I was there, Rizevim would not be how he is now. Cain wanted retort, his ability to reason had lowered significantly but he still held back and let his mother talk. But then I never got the chance. And what's more is that I can't even have a child anymore. Cain knew that his mother was not as mentally stable as everyone thought. She hid it well behind her acting. He knew what he had to do. Maybe Sirafal will be angry with him, but his mother takes priority. He poured his mom another drink and said, "Do you want a child?" Lilith responded with hope in her voice. She thought that if Cain could cure her, maybe he can make her fertile again. But her hopes were crushed. "No, I cannot cure you, but I can give you a chance to feel what being another is like. Teaching a being who knows nothing about the world." "What do you mean?" Cain sighed and said, "There's a girl named Ingvild." After that he promised that he will have Ingvild come over and she can help her adjust to society. This will help both of them. After that Lilith went overboard in happiness and took off her clothes and pulled him along to the bed. Cain being the drunk guy, he also tore off his shirt and slept with his mom. Flashback over. Cain HND almost reached the town where the entrance to the Nordic pantheon is. He was surprised to find a white-haired beauty waiting for him. Just as he reached closer he could sense her being a demigod, and her dress was an indication to her status as a Valkyrie. "I presume, the new Lucifer? The Alfather has been awaiting you." "Indeed. And who you might be?" The albino beauty scoffed and said, "Brynhildr, the leader of Valkyries. Behave yourself in front of the Alfather." With a curt introduction, Cain knew that Brynhildr didn't like him, or more correctly his guts to challenge Valhalla. After all, that was a sacred place to the Valkyrie. Nevertheless, he also knew that after winning the trial and telling her about Skathatch, he will be her role model real soon. He entered the pub, and with the first step inside it he was greeted with a clear sky, and skyscraping mountains in the far distance. It was almost like a scene out of a movie, but out of the corner of his eye saw Valkyrie jump with her wings spread and saying, "Reach Asgard as fast as you can on foot." With that information, the leader of the female fighting squad of the Nordic pantheon disappeared in a flash. On the top of the mountains Cain had seen, stood a man with rainbow eyes. They glowed mysteriously. Next to him a flash of light occurred and Brynhildr appeared. The man was unfazed, as if he had already seen this beforehand. "That devil is a guest of the Alfather. Why did you leave him?" If he can't even come here on his feet, he is not worthy enough to meet the Alfather. Am I now worthy? The voice of Cain rang out. He was standing in front of both the Asgardians. Heimdall was still calm, having already seen this due to his eyes, while Brynhildr was shocked. She couldn't believe that the devil was as fast as she was. What she didn't know is that Cain hadn't even gone all out. If he went all out, even Heimdall wouldn't be able to see him even if he was inside of Asgard. Brynhildr, take him for what he came for. Do not make the Alfather wait. The maiden Valkyrie started walking towards the vast castle in the center of the dimension, which was only a part of Yggdrasil. Cain followed her and led him to a hall in which only two people were present. An elderly man with long grey hair and beard with a gold and white monocle on his left eye. He had a glint in his eye showing his experience, although the expression on his face didn't match the same. That was Odin, the god king of the Norse pantheon. Next to him stood the god of thunder, Thor. Thor was an absolute beast of a god, standing at 7 feet and a bit extra, with long red hair, greenish-yellow eyes with black sclera. He showed off his torso, which was sculpted with muscles. There were 2 gloves on his hands and the famous Mjolnir was hanging on his waist. Brynhildr, after allowing Cain enough time to observe the 2 gods, said, "Here is the challenger to Valhalla, Alfather. We may now proceed." Odin and Thor both didn't say anything. After looking at him, Odin said, "Very well, don't lose your life in Valhalla, or your wife may kill me." Contrary to his age, Odin was very big of a pervert. He teleported in a flock of ravens, leaving Cain with Thor, as Brynhildr had already left for the gate of Valhalla. The giant god said, "I will be waiting for you until you reach the 100th match, Lucifer," and with that went with a thunderclap. How the heck am I supposed to know where the trial is going to take place? The Aesir are a bunch of battle maniacs, I swear not to God. Cain, using his senses, located where the most people were gathered and flew there. As he reached and landed in the center of the arena, his eyes wandered through the crowd to find many more gods. But his observations were cut short due to the announcement of Odin. In the grand arena of Valhalla, Odin's voice thundered through the air, commanding the attention of all who gathered. The gods and warriors fell silent as the Alfather spoke. "Behold," Odin declared, his one eye blazing with intensity, "a challenger has come forth seeking to prove his worth in the halls of the mighty. Cain, son of the morning star and Lilith, steps forward to face the trial of Valhalla." The assembled warriors murmured amongst themselves, intrigued by the presence of this newcomer. Cain stood tall, his gaze steady as he awaited for the trial to start. Odin raised his spear high, the gleaming tip catching the light of the eternal fires that burned around them. "Let the trial begin," he boomed, his voice echoing through the hall. With a wave of his hand, Odin summoned forth the first challenge. A man appeared out of the massive gate in front of Cain. The man was naked above the waist and had a large battle axe in his hand, a scar down his face showing his life was not easy. The referee of the match, Brynhildr, spoke. "This is the great dash." A single dark light spear pierced the warrior and he vanished into the gate from which he came. "Can we start already? I would rather not waste my time with such a weakling." Thor laughed boisterously at that, while a goddess, her beauty rivaling that of Aphrodite, raised her eyes in amusement. Brynhildr summoned the second opponent quickly and began introducing him. "This is the fearsome dash." Another spear, and another victim. And it was going to continue. "This is the ferocious dash." "This the dragon SL dash." "This is the crack dash." Within an hour, Cain passed 96 trials out of the 100 and he didn't move from his place. The first trial required 1 dark light spear, the 96th required 20. But when the next opponent was summoned, he felt that the trial finally got interesting. He let the poor Valkyrie complete her lines this time. She was glaring at him very hard. The next warrior is Great King Siegmund, the father of the hero Siegfried, the dragon slayer who defeated Fafnir, the Gigantes dragon. The man appeared completely covered from head to toe, with only his eyes gleaming eerily. The king drew out a greatsword from his sheath hanging on his back and pointed it as Cain, taunting him. "I was deciding on warming up a little, but I guess he isn't allowing me to." Taking up the taunt, Cain rushed at the king with speed he could keep up with. The king brought his sword down on his shoulder. Cain didn't bother to dodge it and let it hit, while he gripped the face of his opponent, and crushed it with ease. The sword didn't even scratch his clothes, he simply dusted it, remove any grains of rust from it. The entire arena was silent, only the upper tiers of gods had reached the 97th trial, and except Thor none of them had done it with such ease. But they still were calm, as the next one was not something anyone can win against. Brynhildr this time spoke with even great fervor and reverence in her eyes. "The next warrior is the former queen of Valkyries, the queen of Fjoturlund, the greatest Valkyrie, GNA." The entire arena cheered at the mention of the name. This was the amount of respect wielded by the former queen of Valkyries. Cain was prepared for a good fight, unless the queen of Valkyries decided to belittle him. "It's been a while since someone has managed to reach such heights in Valhalla. But your journey stops now, devil." With THAGNA rushed at Cain, not giving him any time to respond, but Cain was already prepared for this. Valkyries were warriors, they talked less and fought more. Speaking was meaningless here. Cain dodged the grab and responded with a punch, which was caught by her and she threw him in the air. Cain brought out his wings and stabilized in the air. Seeing that he can easily fly as fast as her, GNA decided to change her approach. She charged up in combination attack of ice and electricity, knowing that individually no attack of her will do much to Cain. Cain rushed at her to interrupt her but was blocked by her using geokinesis. By the time he broke the wall, a dragon made up of ice and current jumped at him, but before they could do anything, the two were bound by dark light chains and ripped apart. GNA tired to use the ability of Bifrost to curse him, but Cain raised a hand at her, unleashing an attack he rarely uses. The liquid beam of dark light assaulted GNA, even the geokinesis and armor could not save her. She was impeded into the wall of the arena with half of her body being badly burned. What horrifying strength! With that, the former queen was defeated by Cain. Just then a deafening howl rang out. Chapter 60, God v/S Devil. Third-person POV. Brynhildr was absolutely horrified by the howl. The warrior who was supposed to come was not alive, even his soul being destroyed. But the one who came by ripping the space was Garm, the hellhound. The large wolf rushed at Cain, feeling him as a threat to him. Brynhildr looked towards the gods to help them, but Odin refused to do so. Cain, knowing that Garm was almost comparable to Fenrir, only lacking in his destructive capacity, decided to not mess around and ended in one blow. Just as the wolf brought his mouth to bite Cain, he punched it in the lower jaw, closing the humongous mouth which can rip space to shut. He jumped and kicked at the upper jaw too. This gave a concussion to the hellhound, making him fall on the ground. But this was only for a short period of time. But before Garm could recover, Cain put his hands on top and below of the wolf's mouth, and lifted him, till he was vertical, and then in a swift motion dropped him on his back on the ground with all his strength. All of this created a large crater in the ground and a sickening crunch sound, from the backbone breaking of the wolf. Brynhildr was shell-shocked. The feared Garm, the rival of the war god Tyr, was defeated by the new Lucifer in mere seconds. But before she could speak, she found herself near Thor, and Odin speaking. Vidar, take the wild wolf back to hell and tie it up nicely this time. While the god of vengeance went to follow the words of his father, Cain was looking at the one responsible for this stuff, Loki. It was nice seeing the smug look replaced by the look of supreme terror. But just then a hammer fell in the middle of the arena, and the weather began to change to a thunderstorm. Thor landed beside his hammer and looked at Cain with a hungry grin on his face. Finally, I was getting tired waiting for this. Show me your strength and win Valhalla, Cain. I was getting bored too. Let's do this, Thor. The final trial of Valhalla unfolded amidst the rumbling skies. Thor, the god of thunder, stood at the ready, Mjolnir firmly grasped in his hand, while Cain faced him barehanded. As the clash began, Thor swung Mjolnir with the force of a giant, the air crackling with electricity as the hammer hurtled toward Cain. With lightning reflexes, Cain sidestepped the attack, his movements highly precise. Cain countered with a flurry of strikes, his fists a blur as he unleashed an assault on Thor. Each blow landed with the force of a thunderclap, but Thor was no slouch, his divine reflexes helping him to avoid and block Cain's relentless onslaught. Thor roared with glee, summoning bolts of lightning to strike at Cain from above, but the devil defied the laws of physics as he evaded each deadly bolt with uncanny agility. Undeterred, Thor pressed on, his hammer swinging in mighty arcs as he sought to bring Cain to his knees. But Cain fought with an unreal sense of combat, his fists striking with the precision of a seasoned warrior, thanks to the Godslayer teaching him. As the battle raged on, the arena was getting destroyed beneath by intensity of their clash. Yet none of the fighters were serious. In a final attack before getting serious, Thor unleashed the full might of his glove-covered hands, channeling the fury of the storm into a single, devastating blow. Mjolnir descended like a meteor, aimed straight for Cain's head, its impact meant to crush his skull. But Cain, with a glint in his eyes, brought a shield made up of dark light between his head and Mjolnir. In that clash, Cain emerged victorious. With a mighty thrust of his self-made shield, he sent Thor flying to the ground with a resounding crash. Thor, stunned and humbled, with a nod of respect, he acknowledged Cain's strength, his voice a solemn rumble in the crackling of the thunderstorm raging in Asgard. Cain, this is the first time in centuries I have had such a great fight. I wasn't allowed to fight Surtur or Nidhogg this time, but you happened to come. Now come and face me at my peak. The gloves at his hands shattered, an enormous amount of divinity was pouring out of Thor, drowning the arena in his power. The Aesirs began to shout and howl, and then it came. The blow from Thor. Cain's body reacted before his mind. He punched Thor's gut while dodging the hammer, but the god was unfazed and said, "Giod," and threw his hammer at Cain. His instincts helped him dodge and Cain rushed for a punch, but Thor blocked him. Just then the hammer came back in Thor's free hand. Cain was smacked before he could comprehend what happened. Cain found himself hitting the barriers of the arena, tearing them like paper, flying miles away and crashing into a statue of Thor, breaking it. Shit, I need to transform or I will lose. Thor really lives up to his name. But before he could, Thor had already reached him. The thunderstorms which was storing the lighting from the start was unleashed at Cain at once. Cain once again thanked Scathatch for helping him and dodged the lighting. He unfurled his wings, tackled Thor, and threw him with all his might back into the arena. Instantly teleporting above the arena, he created hundreds of liquid dark light cannons and striked them at Thor. The entire arena went up in explosions and glowed like a firework festival. Cain stood at the top with his 6 pairs of wings on his back, his shirt torn and pants teared at some places. Thor came out of the explosion with only a slightly charred left hand, which was now black up to his shoulder, but the look of absolute ecstasy of Thor's meant something else. Brynhildr was again left with her mouth hanging. GNA was defeated by a single liquid dark light cannon, while Thor tanked hundreds of them with light injuries, looking absolutely fine. She was still in disbelief by the strength shown by both the warriors. In fact, everyone except for the gods were unaware of Thor's full strength. Knowing a top 10 being and seeing a top being go all out is a very different thing. Thor, being a mighty stage god, most definitely had a domain. But it was unlikely he would use it, but his hammer was still sealed. Cain also transformed into his super devil form. When he appeared back, everyone present was shocked with the amount of strength radiating from him. If Thor's divinity was drowning them, then Cain's demonic energy was crushing them with a weight of a mountain. Even Thor was feeling a bit pressured now, but still undaunted he said, "So this is the famed super devil form? It truly lives up to the name. And to think there are 2 more of them, truly scary. But I think I still can do this. You are the 3rd person to make me go super devil, Thor. If you have a boost then better take it now." "Why thank you, Cain." Then Mjolnir broke, the hammer became bigger and the cracks were filled with lightning. The divinity of Thor was boosted again, now matching Cain. And when the amount is equal, the quality is the main factor, and Cain has the edge in it. Not many people can boast to have a better quality of reserves than mighty stage god, but Cain was one of them. Now the real battle has begun, but it will end quickly as if the fight continues. Asgard will not have any live inhabitants, unless Odin uses Yggdrasil to heal Asgard. Hence both of them prepared their best moves. Cain couldn't summon his scythe as of now, hence he was forced to use more energy and chant in his move. Thor threw his hammer which was circling the arena and gaining speed with every circulation. Scythe of death, dark light's embrace. Unleash the tempest, the void to trace. In the dance of echoes, let chaos surge. The final requiem, the eternal dirge. A scythe was constructed in Cain's arm, radiating amounts of energy to crush the very fabric of space. Garm's teeth looked like blunt knives in front of it. He continued. Blight the heavens, shatter the veil. With each swing, let dimensions quail. I am the bringer of fate untold. In this dark symphony, your tale is foretold. The scythe became solid, now Cain waited for Thor to charge. This was not his style, but he had come to respect Thor now. This is the strongest Aesir's strongest attack, even the world serpent was vaporized and his existence was erased. Prepare yourself, Devil King. The hammer came into Thor's hand and he swung in front of him, surprising as Cain was above in the air. But mid-strike Cain appeared in front of Thor, and said, "Let's see if you are truly strong." Limited death. Giod Thor hammer. The blunt side of the hammer connected with the shaped end of the scythe and then everything went blank, as if the world lost its color and then it broke. The very dimension of reality was destroyed. The dimensional gap appeared in Asgard. Odin hurriedly closed it using his authority and saw the center of the arena. And to his surprise, Mjolnir was struck in the wall. Back in its sealed form. Cain one hand was completely mangled, fingers twisted, a bone coming out of his elbow and a fountain of blood from his shoulder to elbow, while Thor, to everyone's surprise, was on his knees, unconscious. And then without any wait Odin announced, "The winner of this cataclysmic battle is Cain Levon Lucifer. He had faced the trials of Valhalla and proved himself worthy. He will get any one of his wish fulfilled and a banquet will be thrown for him tonight." The Aesir shouted at the top of their lungs. The gods each have their own agenda going in their mind. Meanwhile Cain lifted Thor on his shoulder and brought him near Odin, and put him down. Baldur, seeing that, was surprised at the action performed by Cain. Carrying an injured Asgardians on one's shoulder was a sign of brotherhood. "Heal him, I will be fine in a few hours, my healing factor is strong." Odin nodded and began to cast various magic spells at Thor to stop his bleeding as he was drowned in his blood. Frigga came near and also started healing Thor. Loki looked livid at Thor losing, the reason being unknown. Vidar, who came just back, was looking at Cain with stars in his eyes. Freya was giving a very weird look. Cain, seeing that, said, "I have seen women's look thirsty, but bitch, you are dehydrated." She looked offended at that, but everyone laughed at that. Thor had woken up just in time to hear that, and said, "Tonight we drink till you drop, Cain." "Yeah sure, but I doubt you have drinks enough to even get me intoxicated." The old voice of Odin said, "Just wait till you try Royal Asgardian mead, then you will understand, brat." "Sure, whatever." Cain's plan at befriending the Norse had gone very well. Now tonight, or he guesses tomorrow, he will finalize the deal. Although he is still wrecking his mind on how to get a Valkyrie to join his peerage. Fuck it, I will just be honest, it seems to work well with Thor and Odin. Cain mentally reminded himself to be wary of Loki and talk to Odin about the world tree without arousing suspicion that he has one too. Now the only thing I need to avoid is Freya. She is damn sure to try to sleep with me, and with the stuff I pulled last time. Grafia will kill me. The new relationship with the Norse had still began and Cain was already planning on how to avoid banging a goddess, truly the seducer of mankind.